Ready, set, go!
Yeah, whole team on a loose. Kick it up like Kung Fu. Untamed, yeah, cool. Running plays like who knew. Hella fast when I slide through. You would've thought we was in a zoo. Engine roar like a lion do. Yeah, devil, I'm a damn fool. Switching lanes, hanging out the roof. Tires screech when I bend the corner. All you see is a big poof. Then I'm leaving my initials. Street marks, I'm official. Taking off like a missile. You can hear the wind whistle.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go! 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 Ready, set, go! 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 Yeah, ready, set, go!
Get into it like pronto, get hit with a combo. Do it large, real jumbo, so dirty like gumbo. Big money in a two-seater, hair blowing, you see her. I got her, you need her. Never would I wanna be her. And I've been grinding all of my life. Now look at my sights, mile high, I'm fly. Ride till I die. Look how I arrive, like the president inside. See the look in their eyes.
I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go!
Ready, set, go, let's go. Go, on your mark, go. Yeah,
Ready, set, go!
ready, set, go. On your mark, go, let's go.
Go! Yeah, ready, set, go!
Yeah, and you know I like big coupes. Two-seater with the missing roof. Run the meter to a can't boot. I'm the best, got them all mute. Break the bank, talking big loot. Business talk, making big moves. Full tank, no I can't lose. Left them in the dust confused. All I ever did was break rules. Full throttle, I don't like cruise. Guess I got a couple screws loose. Son devil, I'm a damn fool. Ain't no telling what I might do. Taking off like a missile. Street marks, I'm official.
Yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Hey, yeah, I don't think they ready. I don't really think they want it. I don't think they ready. Ready, set, go!
Ready, set, go, let's go. Go, on your mark, go. Yeah,
Ready, set, go!
ready, set, go. On your mark, go, let's go. Go, let's go.
Ready, set, go! 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 Ready, set, go! 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 Yeah, ready, set, go! Go! Yeah, ready, set, go!
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Carton Ellis, and today I am joined in the studio by a killer cast of characters. We have none other than Brittany the Shadow, my lovely wife, as well as, oh, babe.
What?
Speakers were on. Your hair light, you got to get your hair light on. It's not on. You got to get that one.
I cannot reach
You
that.
can't reach it. All right. Well, I'm going to have to run over and reach it for you.
Thank you.
Because I have to introduce our other guest. We've got Jeff Strong, none other than author of, what's the name of the book? You literally wrote the book.
Yeah, I wrote the book. The title is Torn.
The title's Torn. Hey, why don't you
Yeah.
show it?
Yeah,
Show
here
it
it is.
off, my
Here it
man.
is. Here it is.
Yeah, there we go. Torn.
And then the subtitle is Why People We Love Are Leaving the Church and What We Can Learn from Them.
Okay, why people we
All right,
love are
there you
leaving the
go.
church and what we can learn from them. So correct me if I'm wrong. You did a big giant study on why people leave the church. Yeah, just give us the whole 9 yards.
Yeah,
man.
I'll give you the short version. So about 3 years ago, I recruited some of the top LDS researchers in the world. By the way, there are many great LDS researchers, and I know some of them. And so I grabbed a few of these guys and said, hey, I want to do this study because I'd like to really have an accurate answer to how many are leaving, why are they leaving, and they said, great, let's do it. And so it took us a couple of years to do the work, finish it, pull out the insights, and simultaneously with that, I was writing the book.
Okay, cool. So what's the... Oh, man. There's so much to ask right now. You know, I like...
We're going to do it.
I kind of like... I
Carton, we're gonna
want
do
to
it.
dive right in,
Yeah.
you know? I guess I would just ask right off the beginning, like, what's the TLDR of the book? Like, what are these insights that you say you've noticed?
Yeah, look, I think probably the first one is that the number of people that are stepping away is more than people think. Now, by the way, that does not mean that the church isn't doing well, right? We know last year we had 389,000 baptisms, highest ever, as I understand it. So people are joining the church. people who are in the church and are active, many of them are having a great experience. And all of that's true. And simultaneously, there are people who are not having a great experience and they're stepping away. So I think that was one key insight. You know, when you're ready, I can get into the numbers in terms of how many we think are stepping away and the reasons they tell us they're stepping away, and that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear all of the ex-Mormon, anti-Mormons booting up their laptops right now.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
gonna, see, we were right. Fatty Ogre, they got seven on the board.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and
Garden.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I can hear them booting up their laptops right now, but I'm still not done with our intro yet. Why?
Yeah.
Because we have to introduce our beloved co-host, Brad Whitbeck,
Hi,
who is
Brad.
also with us.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to meet you.
Just making sure he's kind of like our diversity reader.
Yeah.
You know, he's our sensitivity coach. He's the one
As
that
a Canadian,
Yeah.
that's my
Oh.
only qualification.
I know many Canadians.
he's just here to make sure you don't go off the rails.
Yeah, good. Brad,
Because
protect me from myself, please.
yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure that's what he's worried about. We'd like to welcome everybody to the chat. Please make sure that you like the stream on your way in. Okay, 2 reasons. Because 1, it helps us out. Thank you very much. And 2, we want you guys to opine. We got a lot of people watching
Yes,
right now,
we
but
do.
as you can see in our community post earlier, there's that we put out kind of like put a little bit of a bolo out, we'll say, you know. And we put out a community post saying, hey, what is or isn't working for you in the church? And we're actually going to be talking about that. I want to see here if I can actually pull it up, because I know that it was here and I didn't have. Here we go. I got it right here. We put this out on both X as well as Instagram, all the socials. Just a big graphic that says what is or is not working for you. Now, I can already hear Jacob Hansen and all of the anti-therapeutic deists just saying, oh, the church isn't supposed to work for you. You're supposed to be working for your salvation. Or like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's a colloquialism that is reflective generally of like what you like or don't like about the church and how it factors into your life. And I think it's a worthwhile metric to simply ask in order to get people's opinions on the church and so on and so forth.
Well, and
So-
Carden, I would tell you too, I think today maybe we're going to think about that in a new way, right? So I'm a very traditional, devout Latter-day Saint. We can talk about that for a minute if you want. But there's-
Like how devout? Like, do you
Yeah.
have like memorized Bruce R. McConkey's final talk? Because
You
that's the
know,
real metric.
No,
dude.
yeah, it was a bit, I was actually alive when it happened. I was young, but it was a big deal.
No, he said faithful, not old.
Yeah. And
No,
so I think look, I would agree with Jacob and others that say that there's an aspect, a huge aspect of our church, which is kind of like, hey, this is what it is. So, you know, embrace it, live it, and, you know, make it happen, right?
No.
And so I think the other side of that, and we'll get into the dirt, literally into the dirt on this, is the gospel and the church are also supposed to be nourishing to us, spiritually nourishing, relationally nourishing. And so I think that's some of the fertile ground that we're going to plow into a little bit tonight.
This isn't just being a bunch of progmo garbage,
No,
right? About like
no.
bridge building, which is really just a euphemism for just completely being bowled over by whatever socially progressive talking point is the flavor of the week on
Yeah.
ex-Mormon subreddit that week.
You
Is
know,
that,
I had a good conservative friend that said, Jeff, dude, you're not doing teddy bear gospel, are you? and that's not my message.
okay.
Yeah, my
By the way, was
message
that
is-
friend Greg? And was his last name rhyming with Patson? Was that? Was he lifting weights? Was he bench pressing?
I cannot
I was just like,
confirm.
hey, yo.
I cannot confirm or deny
Jeff,
that rumor.
You ain't doing no teddy bear gospel stuff, are you? You know what I'm saying? You're not going soft on me, all
Yeah,
right?
no. So this is like the Arnold Schwarzenegger gospel. That's what I'm after right here.
Okay.
No teddy bear gospel.
That's funny. All right, so everybody that has been coming to the chat, thank you for all of your likes and your shares. And we just want to do, Brad, do you want to be the ward clerk and welcome our first record that we've received? Brittany's the keepress of the chats, but
Oh my gosh.
you know, would you? I mean, as the priesthood holder, because you know
Yeah.
you can't.
I don't
As the
have
singular
it yet.
priesthood holder?
You know what I'm saying. So, would you like to welcome our new member of the Ward Radio Wigwam?
Sure, I guess. Yeah. Everybody, please put a big Ward Radio welcome W in the chat for Barbara Smith, 6249.
Nice.
All right. We've received the records of one Barbara Smith and have now welcomed her into the chat with a bunch of big fat W's.
By the way, do we raise our hand now that we've announced her records arriving?
Nah,
in
it's
the
a little too sacrilegious.
Okay,
And at
all
the end
right.
of the day, it's up to me, not the congregation.
Okay,
So,
I'm gonna
we
go with
just
the
kind
flow.
of like fake that it's democratic.
Okay.
You know, it's saying, but in reality, this is the closest thing to a theocracy that you can get, the Ward Radio Wigwam.
I like it.
So it's run by Brittany, and she rules.
Clearly.
She rules with an iron fist. Okay. So without any further ado, also I want to give a big shout out to one of our contributors. Thank you, D. Rupte, for hooking us up with the 4 extension cables that we needed for our mobile podcast setup that is actually hopefully going to be used here pretty soon. M. Smith got us a Zoom, and now we've also got the headphones necessary for a mobile podcasting setup, and we are super excited to use it. And he hooked us up with the 4 extension cables that we needed for the headphones. Thank you very much, Di Ropte, for your generosity. Anybody else that would like to contribute to the function of this show, please make sure you check out the links for the Amazon wish lists that are in the description below. Also, if you have any comments or any questions relative to the conversation, please make sure that you try and send them to us via Super Chat. We will do our best to talk about them on air, as long as they are germane to the conversation and appropriate. So now back really fast to our community post here, where we put up what is and is not working for you, right? Got 22 comments here
Wow,
in just the
nice.
past hour.
Nice.
Yeah. So before we go over them, I'm curious. Just tell us a little bit about your book, and then we can dive straight into these comments, and we'll just let the convo flow. We'll just let the convo flow.
Yeah, and
So tell us about your book, and then guess what people in my audience said, and let's see if it squares with what the general audience said.
Man, that's great. I can't wait. I'm here to learn. So
Cool.
the brief version of this is my personal journey into the LDS disaffiliation space started with my own son 13 years ago, who left the church. He was
Man, now I
So-
can't make jokes.
No, you can. You can. So there was a lot of pain and suffering, but there were some funny, crazy times too. So anyway, I was also a bishop at the time, and this was 2013. So there were people in my ward, and they were leaving too, and none of these folks, my son and these other families, fit the profile I had in my head in 2013. Right, that profile was, well, the people that leave the church are just those people that don't have the faith and character to be Latter-day Saints. They just couldn't cut it, so they washed out, and that's it. And that's sort of how I grew up, and that's how I thought. And then all of a sudden, I was seeing people that were kind of devout, faithful, traditional Latter-day Saints that were stepping away. And Card, my brain just doesn't handle that stuff well. Like when the
Got it.
words and the pictures don't match, I go,
Okay.
wait a minute. There's more going on here. So it started out just very informally, where I was trying to learn, right? I'm talking to people. I'm trying to learn what's going on. What are you thinking? Why are you feeling like you want to do this? Well, then later, I taught at the business school at BYU for a few years after my career was over, and I got close to some students, and I was having conversations with them, and then I did a little bit of work for the church on this, and then I was a mission president, and I talked to Card, and I did 4,300-ish interviews in 3 years. I read,
Like, how is that possible?
it's
As he answers,
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
maybe
whoops.
bump his mic up. We're getting a couple of comments that it's coming
Okay.
in a little
Oh,
low.
okay. Cool. Yeah.
we good?
You got to make love to the mic, bro.
Okay,
It has to be
okay,
in
I-
your face.
All
You know
right,
what I'm saying?
I'm better now.
It's all good.
But you interview every missionary in your mission every 6 weeks for 3 straight years, and if you do the math, it comes out to over 4,000. And then I read 50,000 pages of missionary letters, weekly letters coming in every week, and I wrote back like another 25,000 pages. And so I just became pretty intimate with people as they're dealing with these issues, and from that I formed a perspective. And when I came home, I was kind of like, hey, I'm tired, 156 weeks as a mission president. I think I'm just going to move on and play with my grandkids and work on my little farm. And but I had more friends stepping away, so I think you can relate to this because I heard you talk about your friend that
Yeah.
left the church, and that kind of was part of the catalyst for you doing this.
Yeah.
I just had to get into it and say, man, I think maybe I can help people that are going through this handle it a little better than what I did with my family. So that was the catalyst. So I recruited these researchers. We did the study, and the book and the study are now ready to share.
Okay. So I want to know what your data said. Can I guess before it starts? Actually, I want to hear Brad.
Yeah.
Brad.
Let's bring it on.
What's
I
the
love
number one
guessing
reason?
games.
Okay, so first off, I'll say this. I don't think it's because people wanted to sin.
Yeah.
That's just like a stupid McConkey or a boomer thing to say.
Yep.
Okay, and I think that's dumb. I don't think that's it. I have a very unpopular opinion
Let's hear
about
it.
why I think it is, but I want to hear Brad's probably much more reasoned and safer opinion first.
All right, Brad.
Because I've just had a rough 36 hours in some comment sections here, where people are people are gunning for me. So
Is this my opinion on why I think people leave the church?
yeah, number one reason. What's the number one reason why you think people leave the church?
Oh well, I've seen the study, so it's broken. I can't just.
Oh, okay, fine. Then I guess I'll just say my heinous
He's now
opinion.
a ringer. He's a ringer.
Yeah,
I bet
could,
you.
I could pick one.
No, I bet you, because I haven't seen your study yet. I haven't read your book. That's one of the reasons why I want to get you on the show.
Yeah.
But my feeling is this: it's probably not doctrinal, though people will say doctrine. That's usually an excuse they find afterwards. Okay, I think it is almost purely cultural. And this is probably deeply informed by my history in going over like survey data and politics and so on and so forth. Most people are apolitical in America. You might convince them they're Republican or Democrat or Libertarian, but that's usually more a function of social group and education level and neighborhood than it is really of actually any kind of like intellectualism within these people. But I bet if I were a betting person, I would say the number one reason why people go inactive from the church is cultural, because our church is, and all churches are for us, by us. And right now the us is a very specific brand of wealthy suburbanism that does not translate to every single living scenario out there. And if you're not in that social club or that demographic, you probably don't necessarily feel welcome. If you're not of that generation, you probably don't necessarily feel welcome. And there's kind of a specific brand of Mormonism that has pervaded post-war, frankly, since we standardized and started correlating everything in the 70s and 80s. So the generation that flourished in the 70s and 80s now controls the narrative, the doilies, the interior design, and even the activities and the topics that we'll speak about in our standardized gospel doctrine classes, right? And in many ways that was great and yielded a large amount of growth post-war, but now has actually become a burden that we are ill-equipped to change because we are so used to standardized and central planning. So until that generation goes, we will languish in it. So it's cultural. I bet it's cultural.
Yeah.
I came up with an answer, Cardin.
Yeah.
All
What is yours?
right,
What is
Brad.
yours?
I came up with my answer. It might feel like a bit of a cop-out, but hear me out for a second. I think the primary driver is probably, if we look at the root, I'm going to go with the primary reason being pride.
Ooh.
And that's not necessarily pride.
Yeah.
Oh,
solely
jeez,
on the part
just
of
make
people
him a
leaving.
bishop already. Seriously. No,
No, look at my beard. No, I think that's not necessarily pride on the part of people leaving, but maybe also on the part of people who might push some people away. There
Oh,
are
wow. That's a different
experiences
twist.
of
I
people-
misread that when you first said it.
I know.
Yeah,
I think
nice.
it's very
The
easy
Jedi
for
mind
us.
trick.
yeah, dude, that's why we keep him, dude. That's why we
Yeah.
keep him.
No,
I think
that's
it's very easy for us to like sometimes just push everything onto
yeah.
people who were hurt or left, because there are people who just leave
Yeah.
of their like without anyone pushing them, but there's also people who do push them, right? And I think that's an
Yes.
important thing to acknowledge and understand.
Yeah, Brad, I like that. I think, guys, you know what? We are definitely in the same zip code here.
Oh,
Oh
and
yeah,
so
Cool.
what I can do is I can give you the four primary reasons people cite for leaving, right? So if you ask them, hey, pick a primary reason. Now, by the way, for people who step away, it's so much more complicated than what we're going to talk about today, right? Because we're gonna simplify it a little bit so we can kind of put some labels on things.
Quit giving them
it.
asterisks. Come
on.
No,
I mean, you got to. But so we'll talk about 4 primary reasons they step away. But there's the book itself spends time on those reasons just so everybody can be grounded. Okay, this is what people say, and here are the details. But then I go, in the rest of the book, I talk about the cultural implications of that. And so the way I see it, guys, is like there are these 4 ways, which are the reasons, and then culture crashes over the top of those 4, like Jaws, making them worse. And so one ring fence I'll put on this is what we're talking about today isn't the church as an institution. It's not the brethren and how they lead the church, although that does influence culture. We'd be foolish and naive if we didn't acknowledge that. I'm not talking about the commandments or eternal doctrines, none of that, right? And Carden, you said, what was it you said that it was not? It was not...
I don't think it's necessarily just some propensity to sin.
Yeah,
that's such a silly, stupid boomer thing to say.
And so the thesis of the book is...
But don't get me wrong, I think they're weak.
Yeah, I know. I did too. 2013, that was my thing. A little bit. I had a little bit of compassion, but so anyway, that's yes, it is culture is a wave that crashes over everything else. And so we're going to get into that a little bit, I think. I hope we will, because guys, here's what I would tell you. We're different. Like Brad, I've listened to you a little bit, and I'm looking at you now, and Carden, we have different perspectives. We've had different lives. We have different needs in the church in terms of that nourishment, connection. I want to be part of this part of the church. And so we're going to come at it differently. We're going to have different perspectives, and that's part of what I wanted to come on today is to tap your perspective.
Cool. Well,
right? Because I know what mine is, but I don't know what yours is, and I don't know what your audience's is.
Well, here it is right here. So, first one here by Alan Burton says, I've recently listened to 2 podcast interviews with Jeff Strong. He cites the 4th reason people leave the church is because their church experience is not positive. It seems like the people who leave for that reason are focused on what they get, but not what they give. When I try to give my very best effort to serving others, sharing the gospel, gathering Israel on both sides of the veil, and building up the kingdom of God for the return of the Lord, it's easier to stay than when I'm focused on how well the church is serving me. So there was right there. I told you the anti-therapeutic deists representing hard. Jacob Hansen would be proud.
Yeah.
Stanford True says, I'll never walk away from the church, but I often struggle with the disconnect from what the brethren say over the pulpit and what is actually what comes out of the church office building and on our church university campuses. For example, dress standards are not enforced, immodesty abounds, more cleaning house of professors needs to be done. A lot of the temple changes were definitely needed, but gosh, this is a really long one. Basically, in a nutshell, feeling like we've gone soft.
Yeah.
Is kind of the take that I would get. Next one is I feel like the church culture either creates people that give 100% or those who only give 25%, but rarely those in between. I wish the church could focus more on deeper conversion of those who are in the 25%.
Man, I like all those comments. I really resonate with that last one because I think it's part of what I'm talking about, right?
Okay, well, elaborate.
Can we
just dive right in, dude.
Yeah, well, let me ask you guys a question. So, the word culture means very, very different things to different people. So if you ask, 10 Latter-day Saints what culture is, they'll probably give you 10 different answers.
The bacteria that makes you poop good.
Yeah, all of that. And so I, by the way, Carden, you need to know that I don't normally hang out with guys as fun as you. So I hang out with people like Kirk Frankham, who's my friend, and Rob Farrell and Joseph Grenny.
Yeah, dude.
And I decided to come
Kirk
and
is great.
They're great. I came down here to walk on the wild side.
Yeah,
and so here I am.
We got Brad Whitbeck in house.
Yeah,
gonna be wild.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
totally.
So there's a framework here that really works. So I'm going to give it to you, and it's not mine. I actually somebody that left the church gave this to me. They said, "Hey, dude, do you even understand where the word culture came from? Like the etymology of the word?" And I'm old. I've been around. I've had jobs. I've been on sports teams. I've been in different organizations. So I felt like I had a grip on what culture is. but I didn't have an answer to that question. I'd never looked up the etymology of the word. So I'm gonna ask you guys: have you ever looked up the etymology of the word culture? It's fascinating.
Cultura in Spanish. It also just means
Yes.
culture. Oftentimes, knowing what it is in a Romance language reveals a Latin root.
Yes.
That usually reveals a Greek, but in this case, gosh, I don't know. Where's the word culture? Do you know, Brad?
It's probably yogurt. That's my guess.
Hey, you're in the right ballpark.
Okay.
But I didn't know, so I looked it up, and it comes from the Latin word colere, which means dirt. Okay, it's soil for the purpose of growing things. Okay, so that's like 13th,
Interesting.
14th century stuff, right?
Okay.
Now that
Yeah.
word mainstreamed and evolved over time, and so at a certain point in time, it began to include things like the arts and music and.
Yeah.
But again, think about that. That's stuff that makes society or a community better, right? Art, music,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then today it's even broader, right? But the original word it's soil for the purpose of growing things. Now, here's where it gets really interesting to me because it provides a framework, and I think this framework helps us balance and think about some of these conflicts that we feel, right? And even just in the few comments that have been made, there are some conflicts in those comments, right? So you got some people coming from this side saying, man, just get in the boat and row and crack down and quit being a wimp. And then you got other people over here saying, hey, I kind of get that. I'm feeling a little tense about this myself. So what's the purpose of the soil? So what's the first thing that soil has to do in order for the plants to make it?
The first thing that soil has to do is be moist.
Well, that's one of the things. I don't know if there's an order here, but yeah. So moisture, so the plant has water, right? What else?
It'd be broken up enough for the seed to get in.
Yeah, you got to have oxygen in the soil. You got to have nutrients in the soil, minerals, things like that. That's what feeds the plant, makes it grow. So that's kind of all over here on the nourish side, right? The soft side, you might say.
Yeah.
But what's the other role of the soil?
To root it. Give it a place to
Yes,
stand.
Brad. It's got to be firm and protective, right? So if that soil's not firm enough to hold the roots in place, and the wind blows, it just rips the plant out of the ground. And so what's the point of that, right? And so I think this framework is really good. What culture has to do, culture in the church community, is it's got to be firm enough that it holds and protects those plants. Okay, so everybody
kind of like the Boy Scout program did before we abandoned it.
There you go.
Like maybe like church athletics did before we just abandoned those.
Now,
kind of like the regional activities did. Well, we abandoned those too.
No, bro, it was my priest quorum above all of those things.
Oh.
Those were nice things to have with my priest quorum, but at least for me, my priest quorum's like brotherhood of all of the guys was
totally.
It was more important than all of those other programs.
Okay, I love that. And so you got this hold the plant in place component. So look, if you're very traditional and pretty orthodox, you sort of like that. You kind of like that hard soil, man. Don't mess with us. The soil's hard. We got it. We have doctrines. We have authority. We have priesthood keys. We have leaders. Get in line and just enjoy this really firm soil that's holding you in place, right? And I'm all for that. Okay, but then there's the nourishing side, right? Which is, man, I got to learn. I got to grow. I want truth and light. I need to deal with the real issues of my life. And just holding me in place is good because that keeps my roots in the soil, but there's got to be something in the soil that feeds me or it's dead on arrival, right? And so, guys, my belief from the research, my experience, and my journey with this book is that the cultural soil of the church community is awesome. And when it's at its best, it's balanced, right? So there's enough stability and protection in the soil, and there's enough nourishment in the soil that the plants are held in place and fed and thrive, right? Now, if there's too much stability and protection and that soil gets depleted, the plants stay in place, but they die, right? And if there's too much nourishment and no stability and protection, the wind blows and the plants just fall over and die. And so this isn't a question about, hey, who's right? Good, evil, bad. I'm inviting Latter-day Saints to wrestle with the question of, hey, how do we get the soil right? Now, the other thing is culture's really different everywhere. I mean, Cardin, you and I were talking today about the culture in this place versus that place versus this place versus that place,
Now, we may want to stop for a second because it looks like the stream might be
No, I think it's
dropping.
back on. Isn't
Are
it?
we back?
It's yeah, I think it's back up, right?
Yeah, because I don't want to lose any part of Jeff's thoughts here.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a glitch there. It
No
looks
problem.
like.
Maybe the stream gods were tired of hearing me talk.
Yeah, dude, for real. But I think we're good
we are.
now, right?
Yeah, did we lose Jeff?
I'm here.
I started noticing it on my end right about when he started saying, "I'm inviting all Latter-day Saints to
Okay,
like
so
look
we
in a
didn't lose
mirror."
much. You want me to
Okay,
re-hit
cool.
that?
Yeah,
Just
so
to be
yeah, you hit that one again.
Yeah,
just in
so
case.
look, one thing I want to assure everybody is I'm not showing up as the shell answer man, right? What I'm doing is trying to hold a mirror up and saying, okay, let's take a look at this issue. Let's examine our soil. Let's see what it tells us. And then I actually have found that Latter-day Saints, when they have good information, right, when they have visibility on what's going on, are naturally really good at solving problems like these. And so I'm just inviting people to take a look at this, wrestle with these questions, and then become cultivators of healthy soil. If you need more protection and stability, great, build it up, right? If you need more nourishment, do that. And I think this is, it starts with you individually, your own heart, and then your personal relationships, right? Your marriage, your family, your friends.
Yeah.
And then maybe you get to your ward, but maybe not. Maybe it's just your immediate circle of influence. I'm not speaking to the church as an institution because that's not my job. We have church leaders that we love and sustain that do that, right?
And that I think are speaking to all of the sorts of things that build a really good culture within the church. Yeah.
Brad, I'm really excited you mentioned that because I'm like, by the way, there are people that are mad at church leaders that will be mad at me because I'm not blaming them right now, right? Because they'll say, and there's truth to this. Well, leadership starts at the top, culture starts at the top. It does, and so I'm not suggesting they don't have a role here. I'm just suggesting we all have a role here. And what I see sometimes our culture is lagging where leaders want us to go, right? And not always, but sometimes we as members are just a little slow to pick it up. And because we kind of like things the way they are, and we kind of fall into our own habits and routines, and we get really comfortable in those, and sometimes we're not actually reflecting our doctrines.
So this is great, like corporate talk.
Yeah, okay, bring it on, Cardin.
Like I'm just saying that like I'm kind of like I'm hearing a lot of euphemisms.
Yeah.
What is the number one thing that we can point out in layman's terms? Is that basically like we're stuck in our suburbanism, we're so entrenched in suburbanism and have so mistaken it for righteousness that we've created a golden calf out of suburban culture.
Do you see that? Do you believe that?
Oh, I think in the Mormon church, like right now, one of the biggest problems is because culture is downstream from politics and politics is downstream from religion.
Yeah.
And when you don't have good strength in religion, you start depending upon politics, right? Do you get what I'm saying?
I do.
And I would say...
I don't know if I agree with that, Cardin.
What do you mean? You don't think as people lose a connection with God, they become more political?
I don't think it's necessarily religion has become weak and that's why people start relying on politics, if that makes sense.
Okay, sure.
I don't want to interrupt your point, though.
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead.
and by the that's not actually the main point that I'm making.
Okay.
Is that I would say, if I were to put this in layman's terms, something that bothers me about the church is any heinous thing spoken softly is perceived as true and righteous. Meanwhile, anything said loudly is considered abrupt and abrasive.
Confrontational.
Or confrontational. Like literally, a woman could get up in general conference and say, brothers and sisters, I think as women, daughters of Eve, that we should be celebrating things that women can choose, such as pro-choice abortion. I had one, and I would encourage all sisters to go through the experience of being able to choose for themselves. And will you join me this week in voting for X candidate and X pro-choice initiative? Because I really feel in the fiber of my being that this is what God wants. Oh, like barking seals, we would buy that T-shirt and would say, oh, she's righteous, and we'd all just go vote with her and endorse whatever she just said. Meanwhile, if the guy in the back of the room says, oh, wait a second, I'm pretty sure that's murder. You know what I'm saying? Oh, brother, you're being so political. You're being so... just abrasive.
So-
You're being so like we have so confused suburban propriety with like righteousness that
So, Carden,
we can't do anything right.
this is one of my moments where I'm like, man, Carden really is in California, because my Utah County ward would not just be like, yeah, this is totally chill. Like everyone in my Utah County ward would be like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know, like I think you're making a decent point, Carden, that there is a certain amount of extra leeway given to ideas that are expressed in a polite way, even if those ideas are ultimately not in line with what the gospel teaches, right? And there is a certain intolerance for people who are not as polite. So I think there's elements of that suburbanism.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, at least in my ward, it has not seemed anywhere near as extreme as it might be in yours.
And, you know, Carden, I would agree with Brad based on my experience in my ward, but I do believe that in the church we have a high courtesy, low candor culture.
Ooh,
Interesting.
Okay.
We both said it.
Yeah, high courtesy, low candor
Whatever you have to
culture.
do so that you don't
And
jinx it.
And so, you know, so I'm gonna channel my corporate life for just a second.
Okay.
One of the companies I worked for, Procter & Gamble, had really healthy leadership culture, and they taught high courtesy, high candor communication. So what that meant is a junior executive could go sit with the senior vice president, and they were expected to be direct and speak their mind and back it up. And if they were too polite and diplomatic and clarity got lost in the diplomacy, it was actually a demerit, right? It was like, yeah, no, we value high courtesy but high candor. Another company I worked for a period of time, Johnson & Johnson, had the opposite culture, high courtesy, low candor. So people would talk around each other all the time. And you'd leave a meeting thinking everybody was aligned, and then you find out nobody was aligned, because nobody said, no, I'm not aligned. I disagree with that, right? And so I think part of what you're poking at that I think is right is we have a high courtesy, low candor culture. And so sometimes we're not dealing with tough issues that we need to talk about.
Also, I'm going to sound like a total leftist progressive here, because in many ways I actually kind of am in this regard. But we do not cater to non-young family with multiple children demographics, like almost at all. Okay? We are really good at youth. We obsess about youth, making sure youth have that good experience, make sure that they go to their camps, make sure that they have money and funding for X, Y, Z, A, B, C. But Elders Quorum, forget it.
Yeah.
Just forget it. Even though the most vulnerable person in the chapel any given Sunday for homelessness, violence, suicide, depression, mental illness, jail time, whatever, is a man in the Elders Quorum.
Yeah.
Single women, we cater so hard, we got rid of Mother's Day for them. We literally got rid of Mother's Day to make sure that we cater to the Relief Society at all. But the truth is, in the quotidian, in the daily, you single in the church or divorced, we don't have great programs for mid-single adults. We barely have programs for older than mid-single adults.
And they're the majority of the church.
And they're the majority of the church at this point. Like, our programs outside of the mainstream childbearing in their youthful years are woefully neglected, in my opinion.
Yeah, can I give you a real example?
Yeah.
So by the way,
before we jump into that, Jeff, is it okay? I just want to point out one thing about what you said that I think is really important. I think all too often people will set up courtesy and candor as though they are opposites.
Yes.
And that you have to pick one or the other. And so I really appreciate that you're bringing up you can and should have both.
You got to have both. You got to have both.
Yeah.
And by the way, I emphasize the courtesy part, right? You can't come in flame throwing and blast people and expect them to entertain your perspective.
Why not?
Yeah, Carden.
I know you're reinventing the wheel here for sure and doing unprecedented things. So for normal,
I didn't come to convince and persuade.
Carden,
I came to win.
For normal people like me, I have to be courteous. I don't have the heat to do otherwise.
Okay, we got to read a couple of super chats,
Yeah,
and
let's
then we're going to catch up on some of these comments about what is or isn't working for people in the church, and then your you're going to
Going to give you some data.
yeah, you're going to give us some data. So, Brittany, keepers of the chats,
Yeah.
can you
Oh.
catch us up on our chats?
One of my neighbors is in the chat right now.
Yeah, pretty
Nice.
cool. So Barbara Smith, we already welcomed.
Chandler.
We've also received the records of Rosemary Warrens. Would like to welcome her to the Ward Radio Wigwam. Everybody that would like to welcome Rosemary, please put a W in the chat. Also, Restored Truth, Chandler Henry.
Yeah, there he is.
You know what Chandler is famous for? Tightest pants in Mormonism. No, seriously, that brother paints those things on in the morning. He likes those skinny hipster pants. He's kind of yoked.
yeah,
He works
all
out. I
right,
see him on
all
Instagram running around with his wife. I think his wife was a cheerleader or something, right? There's some cool bragging rights there. She's beautiful,
know?
cheerleader. He's all yoked, runner. You know what I'm saying? But them pants, they're 2 sizes too small.
I hear
and
ya.
he likes it.
I hear you.
You know, so if you ever see him, I want to see what he wears on Sunday. I guarantee you, Brittany could fit into those pants. You know what I'm saying? Brittany could fit into them. Anyway, Restored Chew says, hey, Bishop Strong, thanks for your thoughts. This is Chandler Henry. You gave me a book when I was struggling with the church when I was 14.
Aw.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
What was the book?
Chandler, you need to type the name of the book in. I was passing out books left and right back then, so I'm not sure.
Man's Search for Meaning?
No, it wasn't. I used to give that to my missionaries sometimes, but
Chicken soup for the soul.
you know, it might have been
The Miracle of Forgiveness.
no, it might have been John. By the way, wrote a book about how do I know if I know,
Oh, cool.
which is really, really good. It's
Oh, that's acceptable. John, by the way, 13th apostle in our church.
But John, I think that might have been it. But if Chandler wants to pop back in and remind me, that would be great. So I was passing out a few back then.
Well, I don't want it to get to Chandler's head, so we got to move on to
All right,
another.
all right.
No, I'm just kidding. So Colt Audit says, "Hey, it's Mitch. I've sent a few super chats before. Just letting you know, I reached out via your website submission form. Love your guys' channel. It's awesome. Well,
Very
thank you very
good, very
much. We'll be in touch. I still haven't gotten around to it. Septic line in the studio ruptured this week. Been a little bit busy.
By the way, that's true. I saw it.
Yeah. So anyway, now we've got Canuto de Leon has another super chat for us. Says, thought the live was going to be about Ali B. Stuckey and Jacob Hansen debate. This is good too, though. Great show. Thanks. Cultivate the culture. Well, thank you very much,
Nice.
Canuto.
Nice. I like
And we
that
will
word.
be talking about that tomorrow with Jacob. Jacob Hansen just did a live stream with the mean girl of North America, Ali Beth Stuckey, and it was a doozy. We will be reacting to this. And Fishin' Hard says, many of those who fall away are single. After 18 years as a single adult, I get it. Still here, but I get it for sure. Yeah, what do you got to say about the single adults, man? We
Yeah,
do
well,
not do a good job with these cats.
Here's what's going on. You said it. They're saying it. We're nibbling at this issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is that it's not about, look, our doctrine's wrong and the brethren are off track. It's that people need the protection and stability, but they need the nourishment. And if your church experience isn't working for you, and for some singles it's not, then it's hard to be excited about participating in the church. So I empathize with what this individual's saying, and there are different groups that are going
so what's
through
the
that.
fix, though, bro?
Yeah.
Like, what's the fix?
Yeah.
Dude, do you know what it was for me?
No, what?
Awesome home teachers. That's what it was at the time. It wasn't quite ministering yet, but I had the best home teachers I have ever had, and I think I was actually the best at home teaching I've ever been during college.
Yeah.
And it was
Interesting.
fantastic.
I mean,
and
that's what
that
Gordon
was
B.
what
Hinckley
really
said, right? Like, everyone needs a friend and a calling.
Yeah. So part of what we do in the church, and it's just because this is how big organized institutional churches work, is we crop dust, right? So what happens is the brethren, the general women. And
Am I the only immature one? Am I the only immature one?
Is there?
No.
Is
That
there?
it's like, chat,
I just laughed in my head. You're the
Chat.
one that laughs outwardly.
chat, we
Yeah.
need to crop dust more during sacrament meeting. Do you know what crop dusting means in colloquial terms?
I don't think I do, Cardinal.
It's when you do a silent but deadly
Ah.
fart. It's when you do a silent but deadly fart as you
See,
walk by a
yeah.
group full of people.
I told my friends I'm walking on the wild
so,
side. and
yeah.
Here I am.
So when you say we need to crop dust more in the church,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking
No.
sacrament
What
meeting, being that guy in the middle of the hall in the pews
That's
where you just
doing
got to
it.
suffer through sacrament meeting.
Yeah, so
dude.
what I said is we crop dust, but we need to do less of that. That's what I said. I think you misheard me. So what does that mean? So what happens is people who love the church and love members of the church who are leaders, they develop programs and ideas and direction and handbooks and lesson manuals and all that stuff, right? And they deploy that, and it's awesome, and we use it, and it's great. But people are unique. Every plant in the garden is unique, and so
Yeah, but what is the what?
Yeah, ministering.
Like, what is the fix? That's my
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Like, we could keep talking about the problem.
Yeah.
And then say that every person's normal and, like, give our Tony Robbins cliches until the cows come home, right?
Yeah.
But, like, for example, here's a fix that I have.
All right,
And
bring
it's
it.
controversial. I've got, like, 5 of these, by the way, but here's one. I would get rid of the church office building and 90% of the people in it.
Yeah.
Take all of that central. No, seriously. And there's a reason
So
for
you're
this.
saying decentralized.
This is yeah, and I would give all of that money back and that power and that decision making back to the area authorities and the stake presidents, so that to solve the PR problems, for example, that Aaron Sherinian is dealing with, liquidate him and 9 out of 10 people in. And by the way, I think Aaron is great.
He's a very
I'm
good
just
man.
using this as an example. I would liquidate. Actually, we need one, so that's not true. Keep Aaron Sherinian. But like half of his department, I would just liquidate, return all of those funds back to the area authorities and the stake presidents and say, look, you've got a $50,000 billboard budget for Santa Clarita.
Yeah.
And you as a stake president now, you need to find somebody artistic, committed to the gospel, and able to design some billboards that are unique to your area and execute. Like, you will spend this 50 grand for PR in your area because you as a stake president, you know, if the local radio station is the hit place where it's at and some young Mormon guys can have a show for high schoolers and you've got a problem with inactivity amongst high schoolers in your area, you know, maybe buying the paid programming radio time on the weekends for that show would do more than whatever this centrally planned Easter takeover is that they came up with, right? So that's a fix. In one sentence, I'd say decentralize our church, return that authority and money to the locals so that they have to get to know their locals better, and you cultivate that culture.
Yeah, so what?
Carden.
Now I'm going to go ahead, Brad.
Do we have the counter for resetting days since the
I think it's behind Brittany.
office building rant?
I can grab it.
Yeah, would you please?
How many days?
Would you please?
How many days?
You know. So okay, so what's
so
yours?
So the idea that we can fix everything from the top is crop dusting, right? And what we need is more gardening, and that's what you just argued for. You said, look, the problems are going to be, we need to have more solutions that are developed and implemented at the grassroots level. So, man, a phenomenal ministering brother or sister can be amazing. A really, really great bishop can transform this. Great youth leaders can transform it, right? And so, Carden, I think we're saying the same thing. I think the church needs to do the crop dusting they need to do because it's important and valuable and we need those tools. But what has to happen is locally we have to also step up and we have to nurture those individual plants because what's coming out of that plane, you know, the pesticides and fertilizer, it's good, but it's not dealing with every issue that every person has. I have a little farm, by the way, and I have 1,600 lavender plants.
Ooh.
And I have to take care of all 1,600 of them.
But lavender just grows anywhere like a weed.
It's like
How do you-
sagebrush, man. But it's
You
beautiful.
planted it on purpose?
I did on purpose.
I love
1,600. Come to
Jeff,
my
I love
farm
that.
when you come to Utah. Come up.
What do you do with a field full of
Do
lavender?
you sell to doTERRA?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I would like to. So if anybody from doTERRA is out there, call
Yeah.
me. But it's I sell fresh and dried flowers. I have a still, which I make essential oil in, and I sell that.
Cool.
And I have hydrosol, which is the byproduct of the distillation process. It's lavender-infused water. And I'm not going to do this because it would get me in trouble, but the technology for the still, if I can't make the lavender work, it's the same technology that does moonshine. So
Yeah, now
Chef, this
we're
is
talking.
amazing. This is like
yeah,
right
so
up my
come,
alley.
when you're in Utah, come to the farm. Now, my point is I have everything on a drip system, right? So all the plants are on the system. They get the same amount of water for the same amount of time. But then I have to look at each individual plant and say, okay, they're getting too much or too little. And if they're getting too much, I have to turn the water off on that individual plant. And if they're getting too little, I got to dial it up. And so for my plants, all 1,600 to be okay, I got to take care of all 1,600. I can't crop dust, right?
Okay.
So in principle, that's where this is going. Do you want me to give you some data?
Yeah, hit it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we'll spend a little time on the data, and then we'll get back into the culture stuff. So our study suggests, and this is, for you stat nerds that are out there, this was not a probability sample. We're not claiming representation. We're not claiming cause and effect, right? So the way you think about this is, okay, this was a massive, large base size study that we can learn a lot from. And that
we're not claiming it, but we're going to insinuate
Yeah,
it
we're
till
gonna-
the cows
that's right.
come home.
And so, no, that's generally right. That's generally right. You don't need 98% confidence intervals to know a forest fire is hot enough to kill you, right?
Yeah.
You just need to stand there and look at it. And so our study suggests that 40% of once active Latter-day Saints have stopped participating in the last 40 years or 25 years. 40% stopped participating in the last 25 years. 4 primary factors. The first one is, man, the lifestyle's not working. I feel depleted. It's just not for me. 6%, small. So, you can throw into that group people that don't, they feel the culture's too controlling. They're having mental health strain. They might feel guilt and shame. The time demands are too much. That's generally the vibe of this group, 6%. The next group is church history, 42%. So huge group. And guys, I don't have any unique insights. If you're pretty literate on the church history issues, there's nothing I'm going to tell you that's new, right? But our study confirmed all of those issues. So, it's concerns about the restoration narrative and prophetic fallibility with Joseph and Brigham and others. Polygamy, race in the priesthood and temple ban, all of those
No,
things.
but you only start talking like that once you fall out of the culture of the church. And like for example, trees that are properly hydrated almost never develop bark beetles. So you don't need to go in and apply pesticides for bark beetles to trees that are properly hydrated. I would argue 99.9% of members out there, if they were having a good cultural experience at church, would not even start paying attention to these asinine, out of context, recycled tropes, especially the historical ones about Mormonism, if they were actually felt plugged in as part of something. But our church doesn't plug anybody in that doesn't remember 45s.
Yeah. I'm going to have to give you royalties on the book because you just basically stated the thesis of the book. Okay, now.
Okay.
Yeah, now, I'll just restate it in words that are probably a little different, but the same idea that you were expressing. We all know people that are aware of the church history issues, right? Well, we're probably all aware of the church history issues. There are 4 of us talking right now, and we're all still active members of the church. And so there's something about our faith and the way we believe and the way we practice our faith that allows us to say, okay, I'm aware of those issues, but I can deal with that. I can set them right here because my faith is rooted in other things, right? And so that's where I'm at personally. I look at some of the historical church history stuff and I go, ooh, perplexing, troubling. But my conversion is based on Christ and the atonement and my lived experience in the church and with the gospel. So it isn't problematic for me, right? And so, Cardin, that's what I hear you saying is people that have deep roots in the gospel and the church are less likely to be derailed by problems in the narrative, right?
Well, yeah, like for example, like in many ways, I empathize with people that have gone inactive in the sense that, like, gosh, this is hard to say, but Brittany can empathize with me on this. Like, we are always the youngest people in our ward.
Yeah.
Anymore. California's gotten so expensive that anybody not in the housing market by 2014 just can't afford to. You can't afford to buy a house in Utah.
Like,
let alone
I think
California.
within 5 years, we won't even have a primary.
Yeah, literally in 5 years, we won't have a primary in our ward. And I have suggested ad nauseum ways of keeping young people in our stake and keeping that family community feel and dynamic alive, which requires young people. But the boomers just won't listen. And it's like, I am completely empathetic. I'm not sympathetic to the historical arguments, but I'm empathetic to somebody that says, you know, I just felt like my ward didn't even want young people in it.
Yeah.
Because none of the activities were meant for them. The youth, just fine, will pay. Rich boomers will throw money at problems.
Yeah.
They will throw money at problems. Ask for their time. Oh, F you, forget it. I've got bigger things to do. So it's like, I
think that's a little harsh, Cardin. It's a little harsh.
but
Yeah.
accurate?
Thanks, Brad.
Okay,
Sure. So here's what I would say, Carter.
Brittany and Brad bringing some heat back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real.
I mean, for me, when
Watch
I
what
look at-
happens when they do that. No, I'm totally just
Just goes down.
kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, keep going,
So
Brad.
I just want to say, I think there is some truth to like each individual group that we're in could use some more institutional support. But I think we just got to stand up and do what we can to lift where we stand, right? And I understand, Cardin, that you've had some pushback from leaders before where you've tried to lift where you stand and then had things go in a way that stopped you from actually even doing that, which is incredibly frustrating.
And it might be
but I
like
think-
a personality thing, too.
Maybe we had a little too much candor and
Yeah.
not enough.
Not enough courtesy.
What was the other?
Courtesy.
Yeah.
Courtesy.
But
That's funny.
the thing that I will say is I think Zion has to come from within us. We need to strive to be lifting one another and loving one another as our neighbors. When I look at what Christ taught, none of it was like, thou shalt wait upon
The institution.
someone else
Yeah.
to make things happen for you. He's like, hey, love God, love your neighbor, and move
Yes.
forward.
And
right?
don't wait for that plane to fly over the field. And
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you got to get your hands dirty. So look, let's go to the third reason. Third reason is social disagreement with the church, past or present church positions, doctrines, or policies on social issues. So this is the one that you guys are all over all the time. But sexual identity, sexual equality for women. And by the way, in our study, most women said, and men said, it's not about priesthood ordination or office. It's about women, people believing that women have the ability to powerfully affect the community, and they want women to have a bigger voice. Not priesthood office, but a bigger voice. Financial transparency was another one that came up. And so those are kind of social things. And then the fourth bucket, which you mentioned earlier, Cardin, is church experience, 18%, right? Now, let me frame that a little bit, because it's not just, people aren't just being pansies and saying, well, you know, the church experience isn't good for me. They're looking for the living water and bread of life promised by the Savior, the carpenter of Bethlehem gospel, Good Samaritan, you know, Jesus that healed a blind man on Sunday with spit and dirt. And they're just not finding him where they're at, you know, in their ward or their stake, what they're getting. And by the way, I love the prophets and I love temples and I love my garments and I love my covenants. But if that's all we talk about and we're not talking about kind of the living bread and water of life, particularly in a way that resonates with people. So the way you talk to 60-year-olds about that is different than the way you talk to 35-year-olds, right? Because the issues that you guys are dealing with are very different than the issues I'm dealing with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what people mean. They'll say, this church feels too institutional. It doesn't feel like it's really Christ-centered. And they're not advocating for throwing away commandments and standards. They're saying, no, I'd like us to live the commandments, but all of them, especially the first and second greatest commandments, can we do that more, better, right? Does that make sense? So those are the four reasons people cite. Thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, again, I feel like that 18% really is like 81%.
Dude, you could have written my book.
You know, yeah, it's a classic problem with surveys. Is the answer that you put on paper, okay, it's like, I don't know, ask a girl why she wanted to break up with you. She'll never be honest with you.
Yeah.
Did you get what I'm saying? Like, she'll never be honest with you if she's nice. I mean, she's not going to say, you know, to be honest with you, you're a short king.
So is your argument that bucket 4 is bigger than 18%?
No, I think bucket 4 is the bucket.
Yeah.
But like, okay, we don't understand. So this is a problem with surveys. They don't measure intangibles.
Mm-hmm.
And the intangibles actually dictate more than we'd like to admit. But I'm curious, why would you agree with me that last bucket is actually the biggest bucket?
Are you asking me, Carter?
Yeah. Why would you agree with me?
Well, I think you're channeling your instincts, but your instincts are rooted in your experience in the church community. I think that's where culture rears its head the most.
Like, if I didn't have a very theoretical testimony of the gospel, I'd be inactive.
Yeah.
All guys my age, I mean, like 64% of millennials are inactive. And why? Because you got a problem, you ain't going to get any help from church.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear about your struggles about getting a mortgage, because they all bought their house in the 70s when it was $10,000.
Yeah, that's right, 25 grand.
You know, when it was $25,000 for a house. And they try and console themselves that they're not just a bunch of greedy people that would refuse to get rid of, anything to actually help the poor. Like, we have the most sickening prosperity gospel in our faith, because it's like not even an overt prosperity gospel. But we reverence wealth as though, like, we think that if somebody's been successful, like, look at everybody we call as our bishops. Okay, like, this is a North American suburban problem that we kind of share with evangelical Christianity. Our lay clergy tapers that, and it keeps it from becoming corrupt and so on and so forth. But show me 9 out of 10 bishops in North America, and I will show you 8 out of 9 of them are hyper wealthy lawyers, doctors, engineers, businessmen. And we confuse their success in the marketplace with spiritual acumen, when the reality is there might be a plumber in the ward that is every day visiting somebody on his route in the congregation to fellowship them, check up on them, make sure they're doing okay, and just only makes 60, 70, 80 grand a year. And we will think that the millionaire is just more righteous.
Yeah. If I have friends that if they were here, they would be singing amen, hallelujah to that right now. And so I think what happens is that if that's the culture, then you perpetuate things that really aren't rooted in the gospel.
Dude,
right?
There's wards here where I've talked to, I know of wards where people have had fasts for more young families to move into the ward, where they've had communal prayers to make it so that, like, young families can stay if there's children and stuff. And I know people that have had 2-acre, 3-acre lots or half-acre backyards that are, like, worth $500,000 now, and they bought them for like $5,000 in 1993, just because, like, I don't know, there was like a title deed auction that they happened to stumble upon behind their house, right? You go up to them and say, will you build a $100,000 ADU so that one of the families that is struggling to get a down payment, and wants to have kids can stay within ward boundaries? Well, I mean, that's not what the market dictates. And, as Brother Benson said, they all become Benson-era capitalists the second sacrifice is involved in the prosperity of the kingdom, right? It's why I love tithing so much, because to me it separates men from the boys, right? But, like,
actually, Carden, bringing up sacrifice, I think, is a very important thing, a very important aspect to all of this conversation, because I actually see that as a little bit of an underlying factor underneath all of these questions. Because when I look at this, I think this is a healthy conversation to be having, but I think I want to warn against giving this to people as a excuse where they can say, oh, you know what?
Because of
These
that,
are
I'm
good
going to
reasons.
step away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
so
I
me
think
saying eat the rich isn't helping?
What?
So me saying eat the rich isn't helping?
So
not quite.
Yeah, I have a.
But I do want to say that underlying all of these questions, feels to me like there is a lack of willingness to sacrifice to strive for that relationship with God. It's, hey, there are these things that were just in the way of my relationship with God, and so I let the church go because of that. And this is good for us to be aware of. I think it's healthy for us to have this conversation. I just don't want it to turn into the thing where
Becomes
people
an
watching
excuse.
are like, Yeah, like where we stop being agents to act,
Yeah.
and we start being acted upon, and say,
Oh
"Hey,
man, we got to get
here-
into the soil again.
yeah,
So
sure.
let me dive you into the soil. So I'm going to take just a second. I'm going to give you the 4 imbalances that I see and that research confirms we have in the soil, and I think you're going to
Mhm.
resonate hugely with some, and maybe you'll question others, and that's okay because we're here learning together. So there are 4 that I see. The first one is the tension between acceptance and standards, right? The second one is this tension between, is the church a sanctuary or is it a place of growth and transcendence? The third one is, well, the war in heaven was fought over the doctrine of agency, but we live in a church culture where we're expected to comply and defer. How do we deal with that? And the last one is,
Well, what do you mean by that?
well, I saw
Because I hear that. That's like an ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon subreddit trope. It's like comply, and it's like, well, nobody's sitting there saying like comply. I think what they're doing is just neglecting any other demographic than their own, and that's totally different.
I don't know. I think it's interesting.
So
I want to marinate on that for a second.
is that from the perspective of a guy that's generally not compliance oriented? I wouldn't look
Well,
at
no,
you
like-
and say, well, you're a complier.
Well, but see, like I actually feel that I'm kind of proof.
Okay, let's hear it.
Like I'm proof. Okay, so one of the big ex-Mormon, anti-Mormon tropes is that, like, the Mormon church is all about compliance. You must comply, and every blue-haired feminist, insufferable cousin that you got to deal with at Thanksgiving dinner,
Yeah.
like, is just screaming this from the rooftops. Okay, and then every just like woke, beyond outspoken. I love outspoken people, but beyond outspoken social progressive is like, I just don't comply. I just don't comply, man. We're breaking the rules. We're breaking the mold, right? Like that's a big trope that like we require compliance, and we don't require compliance as much as we just neglect people. like
Can I
like
share
those are
something
two
on this
totally
point?
different things, right?
Brad's got a thought, man. Let's hear it, Brad.
Because I don't want to interrupt you though, Jeff. If you have something to,
I
say
only
to
have one
respond.
more to talk, and then we can dive into the 4 as you wish. So
Okay.
let me spit out the last one.
Okay,
Go ahead.
We're unique.
you got to fight in the Ward Radio.
Oh, it's
wigwam,
good. I
bro.
love it. So we're sitting here right here, and we're 4 very different people, right?
Yes.
And yet there is a cultural norm of what a good Latter-day Saint profile is, and it's pretty narrow, right? And so if you don't fit, now by the way, I'm just guessing, I could be wrong, but I think I fit that profile better than any of you, right? I'm the white shirt and tie guy with the short hair, and I got the business education.
Dude, you've got the Area 70 look,
totally.
bro.
I was a bishop twice. I was a mission
You're
president.
actually kind of too skinny and healthy for it, though.
Well, that's because I
my
retired and
gosh.
started to exercise.
They kind of really like the just they like this, like Uchtdorf. He's the sweet spot.
Yeah, Uchtdorf's
Uchtdorf's
really
the sweet
wonderful
spot.
person.
Yeah.
So we're different, and yet the culture really pushes us to be the same. So those are the 4, right? So acceptance versus standards, transcendence versus sanctuary, agency versus complying, and conformity versus harmony. Harmony is everybody's different, but we get along great, right? We work together. We're united by a common cause. So Brad, those are the 4, and we can come back to them. So let's hear what you had to say.
So this was a really fascinating conversation that I had on my mission with a woman who had gone a little bit less active in our ward, who we were asked to go and chat with, and we ended up having a very, very interesting conversation with her. I was just like 19 at the time, and we were chatting about what was going on with the ward and what her issues were with the ward. And interestingly, they were very similar to the kind of things that you're talking about right now. And it was very fascinating because during the course of this, I felt very inspired to tell her something. She said, I don't want to go to church because I don't feel like the church is offering the true like things that God would be asking us to do. And I just felt like I needed to ask her, hey, do you have any right to be angry that the machine isn't working if you are the cog that would have made the machine work?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
some deep
That's
shiz,
good,
bro.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
it was cool because she stopped and she recognized that that was not like some 19-year-old kid telling her that.
Yeah.
She was like, that was the exact she was like, this is the exact argument that I tell my labor unions, actually. And so, like, I don't think it's any mistake that you said it that way, right?
Yeah.
And it was very fascinating because for me, it helped me recognize something and made me think a little bit about how the parable of the olive trees is set, and how we have wild olive branches that are literally required to keep the tree healthy.
Yes.
And I think if people are self-selecting as a wild olive branch to prune themselves and get out and be done, right? Like, you're not doing what you should be when in order to rebel the right way, like, which is a weird thing to say, right? Rebel the right way. What does that even mean? When you're not wanting to comply, I actually think Cardin is a fantastic example of this, where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to comply with the things I think are dumb, but I'm going to do something within the bounds of what I know is right in order to address that problem I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than just abandoning ship. And so that's something that I think is an important thing to be considering here. And I hope when people listen to this conversation, if they're commiserating with this idea of like, oh, these are problems I see within my own ward, rather than looking at that and using that as like, hey, other people use that as a reason to leave, I hope they look at that and think, how can I take my understanding of this and step in to make things better?
Brad, I love that. I think part of what I'm trying to do with this book and this framework, right? Culture is soil. There are 4 imbalances. Is let's just say you're one of those people that feel the tension of one or more of these imbalances, right? So you're not having a good experience in the church. My message to you is, well, now that you understand you're not by yourself, right? Now that you understand what's going on here and you've got full visibility on that, you can start to take more control over your own church experience, right? And you can start to try to be a force for good by balancing the soil where you are, your heart, your relationships, your family, your friends.
Yeah, but that only works with small-scale things that are at arm's length. And I get there's more of those than we'd like to admit,
Yeah.
and we're neglecting a lot of them. But I can't recreate the Boy Scouts single-handedly.
No, you can't.
I can't just.
Although if anybody
Tell that to Luke Nichols,
if
Cardin.
anybody could do it, Cardin, you could.
Well, no, there are individual overachievers out there that are just amazing, and they have enough time and leisure money and whatever already. But part of the reason why programs exist and have existed for thousands of years is because human beings have recognized
There's value.
that not only there's value, you can't do some things by yourself.
It's 100%
I
right.
can't stop the Russians from invading, no matter how patriotic I am and how much I want to lift where I stand with my 9mm and my AR-15. I can't stop the Ruskies from invading, okay? I need an army, which means there needs to be programs with recruitment, with boot camps, with arms dealers, with, there needs to be programs for a reason. And we've divested from all of them, and we wonder why our culture sucks.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I think, that's crop dusting. We need that.
Oh.
And we need gardening. We need both, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I just look at this, and I kind of feel like we're first off, yes, we're absurdly wealthy, and
we
the
are.
pride cycle
Yeah,
is
we
kicking in. Okay, like the pride cycle is kicking in. We're causing our own problems. I get it. All right. At the same time, I feel like not all of us are, and especially the younger generations, young parenting generations, we're looking forward to and or hoping for and or maybe even dependent upon a lot of the programs they were raised with now no longer being available for their children.
Yeah.
And they're deeply and very concerned with not having the same, not being able to provide their children the wholesome upbringing that they were provided because these programs existed. Like, I don't think that's an illegitimate concern. I look at the youth program, pre-Boy Scouts, and the quality of young man that pumped out, both spiritual and physical, and the youth program post-Boy Scouts. And I'm sorry, there is no comparison between the two. And I don't think you need to be a misanthropic parent or a self-serving person or that cog that is failing in the machine to look at that and say, no, this is not right. This is a failure. This needs to be remedied. But we're not.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest frustration. I can get back to some of these comments and super chats, but
Yeah.
you can respond
We
to
can
that.
do that. I'll just kind of hit it quick, but man, I agree with everything you've said. Our degrees of freedom to influence a lot of that programmatic stuff are limited, right? Because that comes out of Salt Lake, and there are people that are responsible for that. And look, I know quite a few of them, and they work really hard, tirelessly to do the best they can.
So here's my test for you.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
In 1996, when I was a 14-year-old boy, there was 5 things that I could rattle off on my right hand that were awesome about being Mormon.
Yeah, what are they?
Stick a gun to my head, and I could say to 5 of my friends, these are 5 things that are awesome about being Mormon. 1, first, spiritual grounding. Having a religion, just got to have it. It connects you to God. You don't know why that's cool. You're stupid and learn. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't say that. But like there, sure. Grounding with God, awesome. 2nd, actually Boy Scouts of America.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was a wonderful program, exposed me to a ton of things, gave me an edge in life. If you don't do this, you should too. And by the way, we got a great version of the Boy Scouts program that is actually unique to Mormonism. I actually think is even more superior to the regular secular Boy Scouts of America program because it is indeed infused with religion and has more resources. Okay. 3rd were the service projects. Even at a young age, I recognized
big.
the service projects that I have to participate in because I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are projects I would never get to experience on my own or at school with people I would never meet. And it is deepening my human experience. 3rd was church athletics. I got to play a lot of sports programs, learn sports programs, participate in recreational leagues that were competitive enough to be fun, but not like so competitive that like it's, not fun.
Yeah.
And that very much enriched my life. Okay. And then 4th was
you mean 5th?
Oh, sorry, 5th. Yeah, 5th. My hot wife. So no, I'm just kidding. So
You were like the guy in Shrek who was like, pick number 2, my lord.
Yeah, exactly. And then the 5th, though, actually was the sociability of the church, like church dances, church EFY, that church culture, right? Here's my challenge for you. And I had a stake president come up and ask me this. And who knows, maybe this is why some of my church leaders, maybe I should be less candid. Right. But we'd finally set up Zoom during COVID. And I was screaming from the rooftops that we need to be broadcasting from my studio with the church logo here, and be connecting with all of our members on Sunday, even though we're not meeting in the chapel. 2 weeks to stop the spread turned into 2 months, turned into practically 2 years here in California. And it took we were 8 or 9 months in before they agreed to do Zoom church. Yeah. That's how behind the ball they were. And they thought, Cardin, he's just wanting to do his fun computer stuff. You don't have to listen to him and take him seriously. We have email. We have email to communicate, right? And so I was 8 months in before I got us to do freaking Zoom church, right? And, babe, what did you say? I totally got chemo brain that just clocked in right now. What was I saying?
You're talking about Zoom church, and you're talking about. I'm not a mind
At the
reader,
core of
baby.
what you were getting at, Cardin, I think it had to do with how the institutional church actually got in the way of what you were trying to do.
Oh, yeah, now I remember.
Yeah, helping
Stake
people.
president came up to me, and he said, "Oh, this is good. So you finally got what you wanted." And I was like, "This isn't me getting what I wanted."
Hey, Cardin,
Yeah.
I need to share something with you right now about this.
Okay.
Guess who had this exact same experience?
Joseph Smith.
My dad.
Oh, your dad. Okay.
So, dude, when my dad was called as bishop, he ended up looking at the handbook, looking at everything, and being like, shoot, we really need to be implementing Boy Scouts more than we are. This is a program we're asked to do for our youth. I'm going to be taking my calling as head of the priests quorum very seriously and making sure that I focus on this a lot. And he had members of the stake presidency be like, oh yeah, Bishop Whitbeck, if you really want to do this Boy Scouts thing, you can, right? Like they literally gave him the exact kind of treatment you're describing right now. Yeah. And he was a bishop. He had been called to be a bishop. And so to me, that just is the kind of thing that suggests this is a problem that is not going away, whether we get
I'm coming full
bishops
circle.
or stake
You got
presidents
it?
on
Chemo
board.
brain's off.
Well, it's been off for 30 seconds, so I just respect Brad and I let him finish his thoughts. You know what I'm saying? But no, I remember the stake president comes up. He's like, "Oh, finally, you got what you want." I was like, "No, it's not me getting what I wanted. I think we need this, especially for the youth and the disaffected." And then he kind of chuckles a little bit. I said, "Here's the test." I said, when I was 14 years old, I could name 5 things at the drop of the hat that I could brag to my friends about the church that I was proud of. Take a 14-year-old right now from this congregation, stick a gun to his head, and ask him to rattle off 5 things that he's proud of. He can't do it because 3 of those things are gone now. So what are they? And I asked him, and he just looked at me blank stare. You know what I'm saying? I said, yeah, there's your answer right there. If you can't name 5 things a 14-year-old would have to brag to his friends about that he gets access to by being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you've lost. And that's why I think that 4th bucket that you talk about is the most important bucket.
Yeah.
Because if that bucket, nobody's going to go inactive from something they don't want to leave.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, right? So you can, look, I'm not diminishing the seriousness that people view church history issues or social issues with that cause them to feel dissonance in the church.
Yeah, notice not a single one of those things that I mentioned
has anything to do with that.
had anything to do with church history. But now 3 of those 5 things are gone.
Yeah.
And one of them is heavily restricted.
And so, Cardin, back to the soil metaphor for a minute.
Yeah.
If a plant is being held in place, firmly but gently, and they are receiving nourishment like crazy and growing and thriving and producing fruit, they're not going anywhere. Right?
The farmers have not fertilized their field, and they're blaming the plants for turning brown instead of their own incompetence.
That's
Okay, let Jeff finish.
Yeah, no, I think you and I are saying...
No, because he's defending the bad farmers. No,
I think what you're saying is right. I really do. What I'm saying is that people who are thriving and receiving truth and light and growing and feel connected to other people in the church community generally don't leave. Now, some of the post-Mormons I know, and I know a lot, and I've interviewed many, they'll say, Jeff, you're underemphasizing the importance of things like church history, right? And so I want to respect that point of view, but I know so many people that say, look, I have issues with those things, but my experience in the church, bucket 4, wave 4, it's just really good. I love the people that are in my ward.
And I call BS on that, dude, because what American wants to believe all the crappy progressive versions of American history if he's patriotic because he's loving America and having a good experience here?
Okay,
but all of a sudden, if he's not, that's when all of a sudden he...
Which part are you calling BS on? I think we're actually agreeing. So tell me what you're disagreeing with.
Well, no, I'm just saying that I call BS when they say like, "Oh, it's church history that was my issue."
Oh,
no,
okay.
It's that's the soundbite you adopted afterwards because you had a bad experience.
And honestly,
you and I
it sounds more defensible.
Yeah. Look, I would tell you, I think you and I agree largely on exactly the issue. I would say it's a little more nuanced than you're stating it, right? But I don't think the general conclusion is different. I think you and I are saying the same thing. And so look, the whole argument that I make in the book is can we cultivate the soil so that people have a great experience, wave 4, and they want to stay, right? So I'm not trying to re-recruit people that left. I respect that if that's what they want to do and that's what's going to work for them.
So how do we cultivate that soil then, bro?
Well,
in layman's terms.
Yeah. You have to go back and look at the 4 problems, right? And so acceptance versus standards. I'm not saying lower the standards. I'm saying you got to be more accepting of people. Now, before we diverge on this, let me give you an exact example, okay? So I talk about this incredible person in the book, but one of my missionaries, his name's John. That's his real name. He was like one of the very best missionaries I had, like deeply committed, incredibly Christ-like, incredibly knowledgeable, capable. He was a leader. He was loved by his missionary peers because he's just a good person. And he worked hard and he did everything that you want a great missionary to do. And, he came home, he got married, they've got 3 kids now, and I had learned that he had stopped regularly participating in the church, right? He hadn't, stepped away totally. So I reached out to him, and I had, this 2-hour video call with he and his sweet wife. They're amazing people. And I said, hey, I just heard that you're, kind of not as in as you used to be. Help me understand what's going on with you. And he just said, look, I am deeply committed to the gospel and being a disciple of Jesus Christ, but I'm just finding my experience in the church is not working. And so I said, well, can you give me an example? He said, yes. He said, I gave a talk in sacrament meeting. And tell me, guys, if this resonates with you or not, but I'd be really interested. He said, I gave a talk in sacrament meeting. And in my talk, what I said is that I love the church and the gospel so much. The gospel's changed my life. I love the Book of Mormon. I fell in love with that as a missionary. I am deeply, deeply converted to all of those things. And I'm so grateful for them. Now, as far as the rest of it, I hope Joseph Smith was a prophet. I hope the restoration happened the way we said it did, but I'm not sure. And I don't know how much that matters because I'm here and I'm committed and I'm following Christ in this church, right?
Cool, great, awesome.
Yeah, so now what happened, and by the way, I'm not picking on anybody, so just make that clear up front. His stake president happened to be at the meeting. Okay, visiting on the stand, and he interrupted the meeting to take the mic at the podium, and he said, brothers and sisters, you've just witnessed a young man that's in need of rescuing.
Oh, boy.
Okay, now, if that's you, that's tough, right? And I asked him, I said, okay, John, how did you feel about that? And guys, he's a really sharp, mature young man, and he's not so young anymore. He's probably in his late 20s now, but he just said, look, I wasn't offended. He said, I get the stake president's view on that, and I know he's a busy man and he's got a lot going on, and it was probably a little unsettling to him that I didn't bear a typical testimony, right? But he said, it's not just that. That's the general vibe I get in my church experience is that my way of believing just isn't the right way, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'd have been a stake president, again, I don't know a stake president. I'm sure a stake president's awesome. But if I'd have been a stake president and I stood up, I would have said, John, what an awesome testimony. How courageous are you to stand up and bear that testimony in this church, knowing that that's not how we typically do it. And I just want to tell you, I admire you so much. I'm so glad you're in our stake and in this ward. And you are perfect the way you are. Just keep going, man.
I'm fine with that. You probably could relate to other people in the congregation.
Well, first of all, I can tell you half the congregation thinks the same thing John does, right? And so they're going to exhale and go, oh my gosh, there's a place for me too, because that guy just said it out loud.
A lot of people say that about this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say, I think there is a little bit of danger in
I was gonna go there
going
too.
so far as to praise people for expressing their doubts and for saying things like "you are perfect the way that you are." I get what you're getting for, Jeff.
Hyperbole by me on that. So
yeah. I just think this is a thing where you've got to be incredibly careful about what you say and how you say it, because there is this effect where once you start praising people for this breaking the mold in this way, you end up reinforcing and inspiring people to think, then I should be that way.
And so, Brad, your point is so valid, and that's why I think this metaphor of balance is so helpful, right? It's like it's not let's go student body left, let's go student body right. It's look, there's a balance here that's healthy. And the balance for John is going to be different right now in his life than the balance for that stake president, and that has to be okay. In fact, the stake president could have said, and probably would have said, hey, Johnny, I got it, but I have a testimony of those things, and I can tell you that I deeply believe those things. And, it's okay for you to be figuring that out, right? So
I will say, I do not envy that stake president's position.
No.
Because what a difficult position to be in.
It is. And look, I've been that leader, right? I've been the leader that came down with the hard and unyielding soil to protect and stabilize the roots.
I would have gotten up, and I wouldn't have said we need a man that needs rescuing, because he obviously didn't need rescuing. That's stupid. I would have said what you've seen is spiritual weakness.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I would have. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding.
Well,
I
you
would have
know
looked
what?
at him and said, I want to see 10 spiritual push-ups every
So-
morning.
so-
I want you to read the first vision 3 times a day
Yeah.
until you come back
think-
memorized.
Yeah.
Rex
At
Kwando.
least for me, Carden, what I see this as an opportunity for is expressing and helping people understand that doubt is a fundamental part of faith.
Yes.
You
Amen.
don't know everything, right? You want to be learning and growing
Yes.
in that faith. And Jeff, I would say, at least for me, that, and maybe this is not the right way to articulate it, but the way that I'm trying to understand this is that when Christ asks us to be perfect, I think a lot of times our culture thinks of like a place that we're supposed to get to,
Yes.
right? And that if we're perfect, that means we've stopped.
Well,
But hey,
Yeah.
that's not how the scriptures talk about it,
it's
right? They talk
not.
about it as cessation of progression's damnation. I think perfection is more that we're headed the right direction, right?
Brad, what's super interesting, you brought up this great example. So, if, I've done this because I'm learning like you guys are. And so I looked up the original Greek translation of Matthew 5:48, be ye therefore perfect. The Greek word is teleos. It doesn't mean unblemished, unspotted. It means whole, complete, mature, right? So what that means is you go out and you live life in the school of hard knocks, and you're going to make some mistakes, and they're going to teach you really important things, and you're going to get better, right? That's what repentance is you learn and you grow and you get better. And that is what Christ was advocating for, is completeness, wholeness, maturity, not being unblemished. See, if you adopt the unblemished version of that, then that takes us into the second imbalance, guys. And the second imbalance is the church is a bomb shelter. So flee into the bomb shelter. The world is dangerous and scary, and you might skin your knees and hurt your elbows and bruise yourself. And so flee into the arms of the church and hide from the real world, right? And I don't think that's what the gospel is. The gospel is a gospel of transformation, right? Become a new creature in Christ. Pick up your cross and follow me. Receive his
Yeah,
image.
but isn't fleeing from Babylon into Zion and amongst those that mourn with those that mourn and comfort those that stand in need of comfort the catalyst of that transformation?
Yeah, again, I think it's a question of balance, right? So I had a really interesting conversation with a church leader who I respect a ton.
Names.
No, I
Was
can't.
Downey
this,
jokes?
This one I can't tell you.
You were bragging that you're friends with Gong
I
before
know.
this started.
I can't tell you. who
No,
this
that was Bachelor.
Cardi.
That was Bachelor on
Yeah.
Instagram.
I've
You know?
never met Elder Gong, so that's not who it is.
Okay.
But he would. I won't give you all the context because it's boring. But he was kind of pushing on me on something, where his view was we need to protect young people from the world, right? I'm oversimplifying this, but we got to protect young people from the world. It's a dangerous, terrible place. And I was thinking about my grandkids, right? And what I said to him is, I don't want you to protect them. I want you to prepare them. Okay, you can't protect them. You cannot create a bubble that will last their whole lifetime so they don't have to face and deal with hard, difficult, confrontational things. But oh my gosh, I would love it if we could prepare them in a faith-based way, right? A faithful, devout way to confront, deal with, and overcome the problems in the world. And so that's the difference, right? Is the church a place of transformation, or is the church a sanctuary or a bomb shelter? Now, Carden, sometimes the church is a sanctuary, right? Sometimes you need to go and you need to pull out and you need to recover and have peace and tranquility and a place of refuge, right? But those are rest stops on the highway to transformation, right? We can't stop growing or we're in trouble, right? And so there are some people that say, I just can't grow in this tiny little container that the church has turned into a bomb shelter. That my heart, my soul, the impulses of my faith are bigger than this container's allowing.
But also, maybe, I think this is why I could never be bishop, and this is why people like Brad need to be bishop, is like, I think it's going to happen sooner or later in my ward just because we're running out of people below the age of 50. You know, sooner or later. I'm just kidding. I would just have like a pinch hitter. I would just pay Brad's rent so he could move.
Hey, by the way, that's what good counselors are for, Carden.
Yeah, okay,
Really
cool.
good counselors.
I will pay Brad's rent with welfare dollars if I have to, just so that Brad can come be my counselor.
Feed him from the bishop's
Yeah.
storehouse.
But dude, this is
And
why
I get to live in California. Sick.
yeah, exactly. So dude, like, frankly, This might be controversial, and maybe there's some more Orthodox members. I wouldn't even say Orthodox, but just members with a different opinion than me. But I frankly don't care what you doubt or what you believe, as long as you mother effing behave.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm coaching on my soccer team. A lady who just lost her husband to a training accident because he was in the frickin' army. And now her son is fatherless, and she's a widow. Go effing visit her once a month like you're supposed to. Make sure she has frickin' food and water, because true religion undefiled before God is visiting the widows and the fatherless. I don't care what your pity party boo-hoo fest about some Joseph Smith, Brigham Young. Oh, but polygamy. I don't give a crap. There's a new family moving into the ward, and they need 7 elders there
And let's
to
take care of
frickin'
them.
move them in.
Yes.
So can you lift a piano? Oh, by the way, speaking of piano, their kid needs a teacher. Can you make a recommendation? Like, oh, and we need 7 chairs set up before sacrament meeting. Can you pull your own weight and freaking set up that? Like, I kind of like, I don't care what you believe. I don't think God cares that much.
so-
Like, the
Amen.
purpose of the freaking good, I mean, when you read the Bible, I'm sorry, it's about just good behavior.
Yeah. Now let me take you back to Johnny for a minute.
Okay.
Right? So,
Yeah.
so this man and his wife and their 3 kids, they're amazing, amazing people. And they are deeply devoted disciples of Christ.
Yeah, but how can you be if you're bailing out of church? To me, that's just like, that's bogus.
It's not bogus. Here's what it is. That if you're in an environment where your deeply sincere way of believing is rejected, you will go someplace else where you can believe in that way.
Yeah, but,
Right?
but first off, where is there that has the authority? There isn't.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's the
And
protection
second
and
off,
stability
no,
side.
but there's pride involved, and pride disqualifies you from true discipleship.
Yeah.
One of the number one things I learned on my mission, okay, was I saw what inactivity does to people's souls, and it's never an improvement.
Yeah.
It just never it is. It disconnects.
Like the woman I spoke with on my mission, you can be there to help other people. You know, I think it's ultimately, and this, I don't say this to focus it in on the specific story you just shared, right, or the specific missionary you're talking about.
Sure.
I do think that our culture has become enormously self-centered, and because we have so many options available to us everywhere that we are, we think we have the option of, hey, because this thing isn't necessarily matching up, it's almost like Tinder, right? Like we have people who aren't actually dating and getting married because they think there's another option to go along with, right? And so with people in the church, they might think, hey, if this isn't matching the way that I believe, maybe I'll just go somewhere else. Maybe I'll back off and look and find something else that works. And I hesitate to say it that way because I don't think it's solely self-centered to have questions. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But what I am saying is, I think once we prioritize our own like feelings and where we're at over like what Carden was talking about, serving the people in our community, serving the people in our ward, that's where we start to end up losing track of things. I see this in what Christ teaches, where he says, he that loses his life shall find it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is so antithetical to what our current world culture teaches you.
Yeah.
You know, the world wants you to go out and find yourself, and you never will. You need to lose yourself in order to find yourself. And I think that the church gives us a wonderful structure to do that through seeking after God and seeking after loving our neighbors.
So like, and if I were to talk to your John guy, I would say like, yeah, look, was that stake president stupid for what he said? Yes, he was stupid. Was he a boomer? 90%, my 90% likelihood. All right. Was he an employee of the church office building? Flip it over. Flip it over. There it is.
We're already at zero.
Yeah, we're already at zero.
Nice.
Okay. So I would say like, look, John, were you mistreated? Was that stupid? Yeah. But also friggin' suck it up.
Yeah.
Like suck it up, because there might be, you have a moral obligation to be vocal about your testimony. So if there's others that feel like you, they can rally behind you, and they can feel supported by you. When you curl in and be like, oh, but I'm going to go inactive now because I had a stake president that was mean. What the heck kind of system is that?
Yeah, can I
Like, what kind of
challenge-
participation
Can I challenge the
that?
premise just a little bit?
Like, are you kidding
Yes,
me?
absolutely.
So-
We've gone on too
yeah,
long.
no,
Jeff,
no.
go
Let me
ahead.
just look. This guys, this stuff is hard. I'm not suggesting. That's why I think I use the question of balance, right? So what you're arguing, if I'm understanding you correctly, is where are these people? Where's their faith, man? And like, where's
it's
their
not even
commitment?
faith,
Where's
it's
their
obligation to
dedication?
your fellow man.
Yes, all of that.
Like, it's
I mean,
not about you and your pity
preach,
party,
Carden,
bruh.
Preach, man. Lay it out there. I'm amen, right? Let me tell you what. Now, remember, guys, I'm an active member of the church, so I'm here. Right?
I know, but
Yeah, of
our
course.
culture bends over backwards
Now, let me tell
for
you.
these people.
Let me tell you what they would say. They would say, "There's one error in your premise. You're assuming that I can't be committed, devout, service-oriented, and laying it all on the line somewhere else, and I can."
Yeah,
and in-
where? How?
Yeah.
That's a bogus line,
Yeah.
bro.
And
I know it
why?
is. Yeah.
Why not serve your church community, right? Why have you chosen to go serve another group?
Wait,
Here-
no, but this is striking at the heart of the idiots
Yeah,
that always
yeah,
say,
yeah.
Why
I'm
don't-
not religious, I'm
No.
just spiritual.
No,
Oh,
that's not
really?
it.
Just
Okay.
let Jeff finish.
Yeah, no, it's okay. We're good. It's guys. For every active member of the church on earth, there are for every 4,000 people on the earth, 3,999 are not active Latter-day Saints. So they would literally laugh at you and say, "Are these all not God's children? Are the only ones that are in need of service and care and love and my capacity to minister to them, the Latter-day Saints that are 1 in 4,000?"
Well, yeah, of course. We don't have a monopoly
yeah.
on truth. We're not saying
No,
other
so
religions
that-
aren't capable of
No,
getting you
so-
closer to God. I'm just saying,
and I will say,
to
Jeff,
a returned missionary
Yeah,
that's made those covenants, understands what the authority of the church actually means, and taught it for 2 years.
Yep.
That's a cop-out.
Yeah.
And it's a cop-out that is rooted in its functional root in pride or self-centeredness.
and
and
so
and
that.
Beth,
Sorry, go
okay.
ahead, Brad. Yeah, go ahead.
I just will say, I hear what you're saying,
Mhm.
and I think that it holds true in like maybe 2 out of 10 people that I know
Yeah,
who have distanced themselves from the church. I totally agree with you. There is the possibility of continuing that service elsewhere. I just don't seem to see that continuing for so many.
yeah.
know?
That's a fair point, and I think at the end of the day, we're all a function of the experiences we have and the people we know, right?
Yeah.
I would tell
And
you,
again, that's anecdotal,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
No, it's
not,
cool, but Brad, that's
Yeah.
your experience.
Well, no, church, like spiritual health is no different than physical health.
Yeah.
And I believe wholeheartedly that if you actually are disciplined enough, you don't need a gym membership to be truly healthy. You can eat very well at home. You could go running 5 miles a day, do 100 push-ups, and find some tree branch somewhere in the park where you
Do
could do
some
pull-ups. I believe that you could. However, let's look at 99 out of 100 people that quit their gym membership. They're fatter the next year, have less cardiovascular health. And yeah, every single one of them, when they quit, walking out the door said, "Well, you don't need a gym membership to stay healthy." Yeah, you're right. Let's catch up a year from year. Oh, yeah, now you're fat and out of shape. I speak from experience. Okay? So it's like, that's why I just think it's such a cop-out whenever I
Yeah.
hear this, like, well, you can still be a disciple of, yeah, how, bro? How? Where? What? When? Show
Yeah,
me
but-
how your service opportunities go up. Show me how your scripture reading went up. Show me how your prayer increased by going to church less. It's just, it's BS, man.
I think that is true for some, but having interviewed hundreds, I can tell you it's not true for many. Now
You're listening to Faith Matters, interview with the Progmo. For those of you, no, I'm totally just kidding.
Yeah, let me.
Garden.
So let me,
No. In Jeff's defense, could I throw something out here as well?
Yeah, hit it.
Because I think part of this conversation has kind of moved into the territory of us talking about ideals and talking about the immediate, right? Things that are happening right now. And I think it is very easy for us to get lost in those weeds when we're discussing this particular topic. But I think it's very important for us to remember an eternal perspective, and that where people are right now isn't where they're going to be forever. And we ought to have the charity to look at people as God sees them, right?
I
And
like that.
see what we can
I like
do
that.
to focus in on meeting people where they're at and seeing what we can do to help lift them in any way that they're willing to let us. you
Yeah,
know?
and Brad, I love that sentiment. Let me just acknowledge something. So here's where the culture of soil metaphor, I think, starts to work for us. So, Carden, what you're arguing for is firm and stable soil. You're saying, dude, get your roots in this soil and just be tough. Like, just do it. Right?
Well, no, you're not too good for this.
Yeah, no. I'm so don't
Yeah.
assume that I'm saying that what you're saying
that's what
is
I'm saying. It's
wrong.
like
I'm-
you're not
right.
too good for this, bro.
Yeah, you're right. You know, so we need firm and stable soil to hold the roots in place. Yes. But if the plants aren't being nourished, they die, and then it doesn't matter that the soil is firm and stable. And so there has to be a balance, right? And so, you know, Brad's articulating that a little bit, and I think it's great. Guys, I'm not trying to make an argument for, you know, something's right, something's wrong. I'm saying the data and my personal observations suggest that there's an imbalance that is not universally throughout the church. It varies a lot by individual, family, ward, stake.
Yeah.
And there are ward, stakes, families that are killing it. They're doing such a good job. I could give you many examples because people contact me and say, hey, I want to tell you about my bishop. I want to tell you about my ward. And there are a lot of great places out there.
Okay, we got some super chats. Brittany's
Yeah,
going
let's
to
do
catch
it.
us up on some super chats here. Brittany, keepress of said chats. Pick up where we left off.
I'm not sure where we left off.
Oh, jeez. I'll find it. I'll find it for us. The last super chat, I believe we were going to read. Oh, this was a spicy one from Pauline Ikes. Oh, boy. He
Ooh,
always.
You want
Oh,
to
no,
scroll up
Carden.
and then I
Yeah,
can
he
read
always
it?
brings the smoke. You know what I'm saying?
Should we just skip it?
No.
Okay.
What does Jeff make of the infiltration of covert feminism into the church? I find feminism's unchecked creep into the restored gospel a problem.
What do I think about that?
By the way, the fact that we all have to pause, you know what I'm saying, shows exactly how much we fear these people more than God.
But then you
Yeah.
could also
Yeah, how
substitute
dare you
that
consider
with
your answer before you say something.
well, and also okay,
Carden.
substitute the word feminism for patriarchy. It,
Yeah.
It's two ends of the spectrum. So
Yeah.
yeah, when either of those are going crazy, yeah,
so
that's
the
a
fake
problem.
thing that doesn't exist versus the rabid blue-haired monster that wants to
No,
get you
I could
fired
say-
from your job.
As a whole,
Carden.
the church does not have a patriarchy problem, but there are certain male members that might have a patriarchy
true.
problem.
Yeah.
So it's an individual problem.
Do you want me to respond to that? Is it my
Yeah,
turn?
it's
Okay.
your turn.
So you'll
Yes.
laugh how careful I am with this, but
You're already retired. You don't have to worry about
I
losing your
don't-
job.
I don't. There's no question in my mind that factors that are outside the church, cultural, social factors outside of the church, affect people in the church and how they think and feel about belief in church and religion. So the argument that this guest is making is that he's really uncomfortable because he sees the influence of that in the church. I think that we live in the world and those influences come into the church for sure at every level, right? So I would say, yes, that happens.
Okay.
If I was to compare the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with most other organized religions in the developed world, I would say on the spectrum, we're not super far that way.
Yeah, the church is a little bit on the spectrum. We all can admit that. So,
Carden.
okay, thank you very much, Pauline Ikes, for your super chat. Now we got the next one here. It says, it's not just the boomers that won't listen. Oh, that's
Yes,
funny.
yes, that's
savage.
true.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
Gen Alpha
How good are we
primary
at taking
kids,
direction, huh?
those Gen Alpha primary kids won't behave. I'm just kidding. Actually, if you you know the funnest job in the church, bro? Freaking primary chorister and pianist. It's like, dude, just having an excuse to get kids. You can literally just tell the kids to run around and scream, and people just think you're a good primary. Every once in a while I have to substitute, and I'll literally tell the kids, I'll be like, if you can sing loud enough that they complain about it in the elders quorum room,
Then you're
4 doors
rocking it.
down,
Good job.
I will give you, and you only need to give them $1, and they're
Yeah.
stoked out of their mind, right? So it's I
Or
think
Skittles
or
work.
Skittles.
Yeah.
that is dude, primary is just rad.
I think primary is the best calling in the church
yeah,
myself.
it's just doing. Although there's one thing that is tough. If you're playing the piano,
Yeah.
you can screw up in sacrament meeting, and all the adults just half of them don't even notice, and they're just too proper. Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
You screw up a song in primary,
You're in trouble.
and the kids will be like, "Ah, you screwed up!" You know what I'm saying? Like, it's actually really funny.
That is
So, all right, next one is Grorick says, I don't know. Oops, I got to pull this back up right here. He says, I don't know how to have spiritual experiences with my brethren without the social aspect.
Boom.
2, many people just want to go to sacrament meeting and never talk to you again until they are ready to move.
Yeah, look, here's the deal. So Ward Radio exists because there's a need in the LDS community for what you're doing, right? So you have created a community here that allows people that want to engage in topics like this to have these kind of conversations, and it's connecting them to the church community through Ward Radio, right?
No.
And so I think if, don't take this the wrong way, but if the church was perfect, doing everything right, and the community element of the church was rocking on all cylinders, you probably wouldn't have a show, right?
No, we wouldn't exist.
Yeah,
we
and
exist because of a massive dereliction of duty
and so
on behalf of those that have power.
I don't know, man.
What I think is really interesting is, can I just highlight one difference between
They
your generation
didn't have
and mine?
social media for young men until February of 2024, when our channel was already half a decade old, and the majority of our demographics show that it's like 80% men. That, like, the neglected masses of our church watch War Radio.
Yeah, look, I think one difference between people my age and people your age is we grew up in a church culture where conversion and testimony was based on information and authority, right? Restoration narrative, you believe that, and then it's prophets, prophetic keys, priesthood authority, et cetera, et cetera. You guys don't resonate with that quite as much, right? Yours is much more about, no, we want to see the fruits of the gospel in our lives, and community is really important to us, right? And so at a time when people's belief foundation is kind of moving in the direction of experience and community, the church is
Well, that's also because that's all that's left.
Yeah, and the church...
for example, we would be very interested in a lot of the things the boomers were interested in as well if we had access to
they're
it.
not there.
But, well, it's not that they're not there. It's that, like, boomers never left the power positions.
Yeah.
When they were younger, infrastructure was cheap and luxury was expensive. Now luxury is cheap and infrastructure is unaffordable.
Yeah.
We love to actually participate in the same kind of ward system that young homeowners had in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but now none of them can afford houses, and you need dual income just to stay in a condo, 2 bedrooms too small for you.
Well, and what I like about that poster's question is they were drawing on the connection between community relationships and spiritual experience. Man, it's hard to have spiritual experiences with total strangers that you have nothing in common with, right? The connection just isn't there.
Yeah.
And so my personal connection to the church and the gospel is deeply doctrinal, and how those doctrines have affected my life, right? They've made me a better person. They've improved my family. They've filled my heart with the aspiration to be and do good, right? So, but largely those doctrines came into my heart because they were nurtured by people that loved me and cared about me and helped me learn when I was an idiot, and just they were patient with me, right?
Yeah.
Or they were great examples, and they just showed me through their behaviors a better way to live life.
Yeah, okay, we got 3 more super chats here. Not Your Average Dan says, don't expect yourself from others. Often we look at the predefined check boxes and duties rather than actual unadulterated service and sacrifice.
Boom.
We have become institutional rather than individual. Great insight. Not Your Average Dan.
Ooh, I really like that.
I do too.
Focusing on the institutional rather than individual. I feel like there's aspects of that underlying this entire conversation, right?
For sure.
Where we have an expectation for the institution to solve the problems that cannot be solved on an institutional level. We need to solve those on an individual level.
Yeah,
and
Brad, I think
Go ahead.
sometimes we look to the church to solve those things for us, right? We say, come on,
Yeah.
put a different chemical in the tank and crop dust it,
Mhm.
And I think some of this is about us as, by the way, I've got friends that say, Jeff, you can't argue for the individual not being personally responsible for their own faith journey, right? So we're not going to let people off the hook for their own. They got to nurture themselves. They got to grow in the church themselves. And you guys have been making that point, and I agree with that. And we also have to create an environment where people can connect with others. And
And
so it's a
actually-
community thing. We gotta try harder to connect and love and lift and nurture, and it's tough.
And Jeff, I want to tie together some of the things that you've said tonight, because you bring it up as though, like, because a lot of times people will talk as if we can only have one or the other, right?
Right.
Either we expect the church to be in charge of everyone's faith journey, or we expect people to solely be in charge of their own faith journey as if their church experience is purely in a vacuum,
Yeah.
right? But just like you talked about earlier, with the balance of candor and what's the C word we were using?
Courtesy.
Courtesy.
High courtesy.
Just like
high candor.
Yeah, courtesy and candor can be balanced.
For sure they can.
These can be balanced, and I think they are at the heart of the two great commandments.
Yes.
To love God and to love our neighbor.
I like that, Brad. I like that a lot. Well said.
Based. Next 3 super chats right here. Our boy Logan Gailey says, oh, wait, no, sorry. Philum973 says 12-step self-reliance ministering, if actually done in pathways, I think are great for all ages. I agree with Carden. I think we need more structure in the youth program for consistent experience. Yep. Logan Gailey says, anybody that disagrees with me is just smart. No, I'm just kidding. Logan Gailey says, fairness to the PRS. That's the kind of testimony that most of my friends / family give before they leave. Not necessarily need saving doctrinally, definitely spiritually struggling. Do your ministering, folks. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Logan.
love that.
Ryan Bishop simply offers a 99-cent super chat. Thank you, Ryan. And then
Beast.
Grark says, PIMO is a big thing. Is there a MIPO, mentally and physically out group? Most of my family has left the church. Our son is done with his mission. Our daughter just turned 8. It feels like we have no purpose there anymore, which goes back to my neglected demographic argument, baby.
Yeah. So you want to hear kind of a mind-busting data point from the study we did?
No, I want to go on to super chat.
Oh,
so
okay, sorry.
We've got, no, I'm totally just kidding. You,
I
bro.
do
Well,
wanna hear
it's on that point. It's on that
Yeah.
point. So there's so in our survey, 56% of people that at one time were active are still active. 44% that at one time were active are not active. That's a little different than the 40 number, so we're kind of rounding to 40.
Okay.
But there's a group in that 56% of just over about a third of them. So think of the people who are active, about a third of them don't believe the church is what it claims to be, but they're completely active. Okay, so it's an interesting dilemma.
Great.
No,
like,
I'm with you. It's totally great. It's
I
totally
could
great.
care. Actually, I shouldn't say great.
Well, you said that before,
but-
and I like said amen,
I, just
brother.
be like, I
because
don't care.
Yeah.
Guess what? America's not everything America said. George Washington didn't really chop down a cherry tree.
Right.
I don't care.
Right.
If we go to war with China, are you registered for the draft like the rest of us?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, good. Now tell me about the cherry tree.
Carden, when I was a bishop, and there were those families I knew or individuals I knew that I knew did not believe the church was what it claimed to be, but still occasionally came. Man, when I saw them come in the back of the chapel, I was really, really excited. And it was like, I don't really care what you believe. I'm super excited you are here with us.
Yes.
Thank
now,
you for coming.
Now, with that said, let's talk about whatever garbage you've been consuming online that has made you think it's not what it is. Because at the root of all of this doubt is usually just cynical garbage. History, and you're not more historical the less you believe in the church. I think you're less historical the more you disbelieve in the church, because we would not exist if these narratives were not true.
And so the question...
Well, yeah, I think there is an aggressive privileging of the most cynical version of history, which is ironic considering that it is generally criticizing a whitewashed version of history when that whitewashed version of history is actually supported by far more of the evidence.
Well, also,
so it's a difficult conversation to have. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, sorry, I thought you were done talking there for a second.
That's all good.
I hate it when people say this is whitewashed history. No, I'm sorry. Just because we didn't have 6 hours to get to every weird, overlooked detail you wanted to hear in our truncated 45-minute, Sunday school lesson on church history, doesn't mean we whitewashed history. It means that we only had time to talk about the basics of a 30-year period because there's only 7 Sundays left before the end of the year, and we have to cover all the doctrine and covenants. That's why. So when people say, like, the church only taught me the whitewashed, sanitized version of history, it's like, no. we only had 45 minutes to talk about the 17 chapters covered that week, and you were too lazy to read the chapters yourself.
Well, hold up, Garden. It's not necessarily the people who were too lazy, because this is a fascinating thing I've noticed ever since we did This Is the Show. I had some people reach out to me and be like, "How dare you gaslight everybody? You said you knew about the seer stones and stuff. We went to the same high school. I didn't hear about those. You've got to be lying." And I was like, "Bro, I 100% heard about these. What are you talking about?" And it was really interesting because we were able to get on the same page and recognize, hey, not even at the same high school, going to the same seminary. We weren't in the same wards, but we were like a stake away from each other. We had different experiences, even in the same church.
Yeah, he slept through seminary.
Okay.
That was
Not
his
necessarily,
experience.
though. Not necessarily. Some teachers just weren't comfortable talking about some of those things, and so they didn't.
Okay, Brad, I'm going to do something to Carden right now. All right?
Yeah.
And Carden, I have no authority to do this, so we're just pretending.
I'm down with it. I'm
okay,
down.
and I'm like the stake president, and I call you in and I say, "Carden,
Yeah.
are you temple worthy?" And you say yes, and I say, "We're going to call you to be a bishop." Okay, so I've just laid that call on you, man.
I'll be like,
now,
"Are you ready?"
Yeah, and you're ready. You're ready, and Brad's going to move to California, and you're going to make him your first counselor. But here's the question that I would pose, and Brad, you weighed in on this because you're in the bishopric now.
Okay.
About 30% of your ward no longer are literal believers, but they want to be part of what's happening. They want to come. Now, why?
Sure, great.
Right?
Go for it.
So how are you going to take care of them? What are you going to do to help them have
give them robust and ample activities for them to participate in?
Yeah.
And responsibilities so that they feel part of the program.
Absolutely. And is there a way that you can help
then I
them?
will audit
No, you're not
them.
You're not gonna have them stand up and give sacrament meeting talks on the fact that they don't believe that Joseph Smith was a prophet, right? You're not going to do that. But what can you do so that they can participate without feeling like they have to just swallow and...
This is the army of God, okay? And asking if, what are you going to do? I've already told you, I'm going to give them jobs. And there are so many jobs in an army that you will never run out of jobs and places where these people can have meaning. Meaning comes from responsibility, okay? So I'll give them a responsibility. And then also, actually, here's another thing I would do doctrinally, though. And me and Hayden Holm have talked about this. I think a lot of the problems that plague elders quorum in terms of the overcorrelation, the boredom, and the repetitive ad nauseum, a loser that didn't prepare his talk or his lesson, so we just read a conference talk and fake that it's a lesson. That kind of plagues wards everywhere in North America, all over. And he has a guy that communicates with everybody in his quorum before Sunday shows up, asking them what they're dealing with, what they could pray with about, and what doctrinal questions they have about the lessons and whatever. So for example, when you say,
okay, he's not crop dusting, he's gardening.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
So
and Carden, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would if I found out, for example, 30% of the people didn't believe, I'd be like, well, fine, orthopraxy first. Here's your job. Here's your responsibility. I don't care what you believe or doubt. Just behave well. That's beginning, right? Yeah. Then second thing is I would actually do a doctrinal assessment on my congregation. I know that sounds crazy and draconian, but there's basic doctrinal surveys that you can do, and they give them to seminary students. Yeah. They only take about 30 minutes to finish. I would do a fifth Sunday where I just said, I want to get some data here. How often do you actually read your scriptures?
We did that in my ward, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, data collection, fifth Sunday sort of thing, where everyone got to fill out surveys.
I would figure out how often people are actually praying, how often people are actually reading their scriptures, so on and so forth. And if I saw this glaring red dot where a bunch of people said, I'm not sure Joseph Smith was actually a prophet because of X, I'd be like, awesome, that's good to know. We're going to have a killer next fifth Sunday.
Yes.
And
so you know what I love about what you're doing? And by the way, you're in the bishopric too, so Brad, I want to hear from you on this. But Carden, what I hear you saying is, I'm going to deal with real people, real issues, and we're going to work on this stuff, right? Yeah. And if you find out in your survey that 30% of your ward doesn't have a testimony of the restoration, the very fact that you could have an open fifth Sunday conversation about that is going to be so inviting and inclusive to those people that are dealing with that, right? as opposed to saying, well, no, we can't talk about that, right? We're not going to talk about that. We're going to just kind of ignore that. And so just the very fact as you as a bishop acknowledging that their perspective is worth talking about, you will automatically pull them in and make them feel like they're part of the community.
No, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I would then lie about the anonymous nature of the doctrinal assessment, and then the 3
call
people
out
that said they
names.
didn't believe Joseph Smith was a prophet, I would put them in a dunce cap in the corner, and then I would have us point and jeer until they finally said, no, I believe, no, I believe.
That's
and
right.
through sheer social...
And that'll work.
I'm just trying to
No,
get
by the
clipped.
way, it's not.
I'm just trying to get
high
clipped by the
candor,
anti-Mormons.
It's
you
not.
know,
And by the way, the thing that you have to remember, it's not,
conformity.
it's not
Actually,
3.
no,
It's
this
probably
would be low
20.
candor.
Okay,
go
Brad,
ahead.
what's your plan? What counsel are you going to give Bishop Ellis?
I would say don't do that. Actually, I would
All but the
try
dunce
to
cap
get-
part.
yeah
Everything else is okay.
yeah. But the thing that I think, at least when it comes to things like this for me, I think that sometimes there is a temptation for us to fall into belief that becomes hollow in a way that it cannot last. If we're going back to the farming analogy, right? There's a deficiency in the nutrients of the soil here. There's misunderstandings that are not healthy for the congregation. And at least for me, one of the things that I would focus on and try to aim for, first off, I would do what I generally do when I'm going to be teaching my elders quorum, which is pray about the needs of my ward and try to understand how to focus on our lesson materials in a way that is going to best benefit them.
Love that.
And then
Love it.
get to the top 3 of those things and then ask them to vote on what they want to discuss so that they're bought in and they feel like they can participate and actually engage. I would use that as the format to ultimately, I think, aim for helping them understand what it looks like to I would probably start with focusing on the reality of the resurrection and focusing in on the actual, like, we believe in miracles.
Yeah.
Miracles are possible, right? And build from there. Build on miracles that they have foundational belief in and then build from there, right? So that's, I think, the core of where I would go.
You know, what I love about what you guys talked about is I heard a lot of gardening talk, right? That you're going to look at the plants, you're going to find out where are they in their faith, in their conversion, in their testimony, in the things they're dealing with in life. And then let's use the power and resources of the church and the people of the church to help them grow and learn, right? That's gardening. That's what we're talking about here. And I think in as much as we as rank and file members of the church, whether you're in a position of authority or not, if we can approach the soil, the cultural soil that way, that's cultivating it, right? That's making sure we have the right balance between protection and stability and nourishment. Now, you might be in a situation where you got plenty of nourishment and no protection and stability, and you might need to have a little more protection and stability. You know,
And that's where the dunce cap comes in.
yeah. So
Now we're cooking.
trust me, as a mission president, there were times where it was about protection and stability, not about nourishment, right? And so I'm not arguing for one over the other. I'm arguing for the principle balance. And
And actually, Jeff, now that we've talked more, this is helping me understand where you're coming from, and it's helping me understand some of the pushback I've seen against you, because I see stuff like this when we start talking about peacemaking.
Yeah.
When I ever say, like, hey, we as peacemakers ought to be doing what we can to understand the person that we're interacting with, people who are on the side of the spectrum of peacemaking that want to shut down, like, false doctrine.
Yeah.
Come at me saying, like, oh, you're being too
You're
nice.
soft,
and
Brad.
Too...
You're a softy, man.
Exactly, yeah.
You're a
And it's
Well,
like,
it's because
that's
it's been
not what I'm advocating for.
Yeah.
It's been leveraged against us so hard for so long.
Yeah. Well, and guys, that's why I think, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, right? I've been around a bit. And I deeply believe in the principles of firmness and stability in the soil, right? So if, you know, for people that read my book, There's not a single place in the book I advocate for lower standards, weaker commandments, lowering the bar. None of that. None of that.
Good.
Right? And so I think if somebody's out there and they're saying, okay, Jeff's just being a softie and he just wants to sing Kumbaya and, hug the trees. That's not what I'm asking for. That's not what I'm arguing for. I'm actually arguing for something I think is a tougher version of the gospel, right? It's a tougher version of the gospel. It's easy to default to just nourishment or just protection and stability. It's really challenging to work on both and get them right. And it takes real effort and real discernment and real judgment and a real command of the gospel and all the levers and the ability to try to balance things when it's really difficult.
Okay, before we go any farther, I got to give a shout out to M. Smith, who hooked us up with the vacuum cleaner that we needed from the Amazon wish list, baby. And I just used it today. You see all that dust? All that nastiness up underneath there? Brad, the studio gets kind of dusty. SoCal got some dust up in here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, also, I think that's Brittany's hair in here. I blame Brittany. So anyway, thank you, M. Smith. He says, not that you needed any more flair, but upgrades never hurt the air. I think that one goes with this one. I'm not sure. But either way, Thank you very much, my man. M. Smith for hooking us up with the vacuum cleaner. And there's also another battery pack here for the Osmo Pocket 3 that we use on all of our on-location events. He said, behold, dear friends of Mike and Cheer, a few small things to aid your year. And one of those things he hooked us up with was a portable power bank for our Osmo Pocket 3. All of this helps keep the productions here at Ward Radio coming. And M. Smith, you have been a very generous benefactor of our Amazon wish list. We thank you very much for your contribution. If you guys want to also contribute to the channel, make sure you guys check out the links in the description. We also have a fresh batch of Ward in Heaven veteran hats and shirts available in the merch store. And before I go any farther and let Brad finish his thought, big shout out to our sponsors today's episode. You got Angel Studios. You can check them out at angel.com, as well as Go and Do Travel behind us. And I'm putting up the Scripture Notes poster at the end of the week as well. So, Brad, I think we got 3 more super chats here. I'm going to read them for you. And then we'll hear what you guys think. Colt Audit says, I bear my testimony, second best LDS YouTube channel right here. Don't hurt me. That's funny. Then Not Your Average Dan says, nothing says boomer like do your job, no excuses, you're weak, and we don't need you. This was the point of the book. Poor Jeff just wanted to highlight a paramount insight, yet he became a target. Okay. Do you feel targeted?
You hearted that.
Well, yeah, it means I read it.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like a target. We're having a great time here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this
I think he meant by people in general.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he meant by us. I think he means just the reaction to his book as he's gone through the bloggernacle.
Yeah.
And I think really at its core, it comes from people who are on like both ends of the spectrum here when it comes to, at its core, probably loving God and loving your neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of what you're advocating for here, Jeff, is to be more cognizant of how effectively we're loving our neighbor, which is good.
Yeah.
That is a good thing. We need to be doing that.
I think
but there are some people.
Sorry, Brad. I didn't mean, you finish your thought. I didn't mean to jump in too quick.
Oh, you're good. I was just going to say that I think that there are times where people, I think Elder Anderson's talk is very useful with this, with the Golden Gate Bridge, right? And the suspension bridge needing those towers on each side that love God and love your neighbor to be balanced in a way that lets this work, where some people like to prioritize one over the other. I see it on both sides too. Like there are people who say we need to love your neighbor and that's how you love God and forget all of these commandments and things like that. And so I think that there are people who perceive that that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But this conversation has helped me see that that's doesn't seem to be what you're looking for.
Yeah. So here's what I'd tell you. I think let me just talk about how the book is being received in general. and then I'll just make a comment. I'd love to just speak to the critics of what they think my argument might be. And I would tell you probably don't know what my argument is completely unless you read the book.
Yeah.
But here's what I would tell you. It's in 2 days, it was the #1 best-selling LDS book on Amazon. 2 days, right? Now,
Nice.
Now, nobody's read it yet because it doesn't start shipping till mid-May. So these are pre-sale orders. But it's the #1 LDS book. It's the #1 Mormonism book. It's the #1 book for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's the #1 book for faith deconstruction. Okay, so people are very, very into it and super interested in what they think or hope it is going to say. And so it's being incredibly well received. For the critics out there that say, hey, you know, Jeff, you're oversimplifying this, or you're just advocating for a soft, you know, sissy version of the church and the gospel, I would say, you know, read the book. Even if you don't want to buy, I wish I could give it away, but it does cost me money to produce it. I'm really not arguing for that. What I would suggest to the critics that are out there is the subtitle of the book was very intentionally chosen. Why people we love are leaving and what we can learn from them. And so if you want to learn, this book will help you learn. I'm not trying to win an argument or prove a point or prove anything. What I'm doing is I'm trying to help people learn from the perspective of those who are stepping away. And there's one other thing I would tell you. Statistically, if you're I don't know, the most important number isn't my 40% number. So that's what the data says. By the way, the Harvard CES study says a little higher number. The Pew Religious Landscape study says a little higher number than 40%. So 2 independent world-class pieces of research plus mine, all 3 triangulate around, you know, approximately 40%. And so the most important number is your number. So for anybody that's out there, I would just ask you, okay, who in your immediate family or your birth family has stepped away? So do the math. And who do you love that's stepped away? So I was at BYU Education Week last August. A friend of mine, and maybe you or your audience will know him because he's an awesome guy, Rob Farrell. So Rob's been a mission president. He's been a YSA stake president. Just a good dude. And he was teaching at Education Week, and he asked me to come day one because he was using some of the data I have in his presentation. So I went, and I sat on the front row, and I was excited to hear what Rob had to say. And day one, class one, he opened it up for the audience, and there was probably, I don't know, 12 to 1,500 people in the auditorium where he was teaching at BYU. And he just said, I want you to raise your hand if somebody you've loved stepped away from the church. And I looked around, and, you know, guys, my guess is, I couldn't count them, but my guess is 90% of the hands in the room went up, right? And so this is a very broad, significant issue for Latter-day Saints. Most Latter-day Saints are confused over it. They feel a lot of despair. So if you're a parent that lost somebody, or Cardin like you lost your friend, there's some despair and
I'm not confused about it. That's the only thing that frustrates me. Is like I go on these go and do travel cruises.
Yeah.
And it's loaded with all these boomers because, I mean, who else can afford cruises, right?
That's right.
And one of the number one questions they have is, and they have all this hope in me that I'm going to keep, like...
You've got some brilliant answer to...
Well, the thing is, the answer is unglamorous, and oftentimes wealthy people don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, there's a reason why Jesus Christ said that it's easier for a rich man to get through the eye of a needle than it is to get into heaven, all right? There's no socially or financially convenient answer.
Yeah.
Okay? But the number one thing I get hit with is people wondering why their kids went inactive. And I only need to be 2 questions deep before I guess it. And they look at me like, what? You're some savant, right?
Yeah.
Last one, the lady says, I don't know why, but my son, like, I was like, oh, is he inactive? And she's like, yeah, he's inactive. Okay. And she's like, well, actually, he's converting to the Orthodox Church. And I said, oh, yeah. Let me guess. Very politically conservative. Am I correct? She said, yes. And I said, he had a big problem with the vaccine, right? And she said, oh my gosh, how did you know? Like, I could have stabbed a voodoo doll and watched her, like, left knee jerk. And she would have thought that I had, like, less power, all right, you know? And I was like, well, yeah, it's because our church basically got bee-slapped by secularism and, you know, was just like, the secularists ate our lunch during COVID, and that made a lot of people in their vulnerable formative years feel like the church wasn't there to protect them against the ravages of wokeism. But you know who's made their bones during COVID fighting it? Calvinists and the Ortho Bros online. And while you were at home trying to cobble together whatever version of at-home church was happening, your son was in the other room scrolling through Twitter where the ortho bros were making fun of the secularists and then like joking about going to church clandestinely, you know, and becoming the cool kids on the block. Now, in the long term, I don't think they cultivate the same level of community that Mormonism does. I think there's a lot more theological reasons to stay Mormon, but our cultural response to the COVID era made it so a lot of young people did not feel socially protected by their church against the ravages of academic secularism. So they went to go associate with the groups that seemed to give that protection. And she looked at me like, you just read the tea leaves. And it's like, no, it's just because I'm online. I participate with these discussions. And our church refuses to even compare or compete in the battlefield of ideas online. We didn't have Young Men's social media on Instagram or Facebook until February 2024. Well, guess what? We still don't have a TikTok channel. We're just completely absent on an entire platform. So what everybody else and their dog says about Mormonism goes on like the second biggest platform in the world. And we wonder why our kids are going inactive. Yeah, they got a lot of respect for us in broadcast media, in legacy media, that only old people listen and watch. You know what I'm saying? But on TikTok, you want to see what they're saying about Mormons? Well, where's your son or your grandchildren forming their opinions about religion? Are they tuning in to AM 1650? No, they're not.
Pardon?
They're scrolling through TikTok.
Not to interrupt the rant,
Yeah.
but I do want to say I think you're uncovering a slightly different problem here, and this one, I don't know, it's an opinion that gets me in trouble.
Let's hear it, Brad. I want to hear it.
I think it's kind of bad parenting when, and I need to be careful when I say this because I have members of my own family who have left the church entirely independent of my parents' best efforts, right? And so I'm not saying that it's bad parenting in every single case and in every single way, but I would say that if we're more dependent on our social media for where we find truth, I think we've been trained the wrong way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well,
that I think, go ahead.
Can I make a confession as a parent, right? So
Sure.
my wife Sarah and I raised 5 children. We've got 6 grandchildren.
Mhm.
I'm not a big believer in regrets, right? I think you live life and you make mistakes and you learn and you get better. And so I don't look back and say, well, I regret this, I regret that. But if I was doing it over again, in the culture of my home and in the way I taught my children the gospel and membership in the church, I would have focused a lot more on the restored gospel of Jesus Christ and the doctrines and how to live, the gospel in action. And I would have focused a lot less on teaching them the LDS way of life and the church. Now, that's not a rejection of the church, but you guys tracking with me on the idea of, our church checklist, right? Our church checklist. So I did a great job at teaching the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I did a great job teaching the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. And so did I do what I could have done to help my children develop really deep roots in the gospel? Because I was pretty focused on, and I wasn't dumb, I wasn't naive, I was doing a good job as a parent, so was my wife, but at the end of the day, we were kind of caught up in that, right? We were part of that culture. We were teaching culture and the LDS way of life more than the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that would be one thing I would suggest to everybody is, look, I love Elder Bednar, I know him well. And his last book was, it's The Rock of Our Redeemer, right? And so it was basically a dissertation on we've got to build our faith and our culture on Christ.
Bednar.
Yeah, you know that guy?
That was...
And so...
That's Paper Tiger in Italian.
Yeah,
I remember him.
I'm making the same argument just from a different perspective, right? I really believe the solution is the more that we can root our culture and our own faith and hearts in the restored gospel as opposed to culture, the stronger
And
we're going to
actually,
be as a church and as families and as individuals.
I definitely agree with what you're saying here, Jeff, because I I do think, and I will actually say this to you, Jeff, as well. You can also do that correctly and still have people leave,
You can,
right?
for sure you can.
It
Yes.
there. It's not as though there's a silver bullet out there.
there's no secret sauce here.
Yeah, that suddenly
Yeah.
people's agency is suspended and suddenly they're going to make the choices you want
Yeah.
because you got the right understanding of the gospel across, because people can make their own choices.
They
And so
can.
I really
can.
appreciate the way you put that, though.
Yeah.
The focusing on the restored gospel itself.
Yeah. And look, I'll tell you as well. So I've already been transparent about this publicly. I have 5 children, and 3 of them are not participating, and I'd say they're pretty hard out. Guys, it's a long game. Life is a long game, right? You know,
Yes.
And when my first child, Kale, left 13 years ago, and he's kind of a central figure in the book, I was really torn up and messed up for several years. I was full of fear and anxiety and some anger and all of that, and I don't need to go into all that right now. But it's been 13 years. I've learned a lot. And I look at him and what he's trying to do with his life, and he's figuring things out, and I like the direction he's headed. I like who he is as a person. I feel absolutely the same way about my other children, whether they're in or out. And so I think we can have a little more faith. We can believe in God a little more and say, you know, God's got us. He's got us. He's got our children, whether we're in or out. You know, we sometimes put these very artificial boundaries about who's in the tent and who's out.
Yeah.
I have a different view of that than I did 15 years ago, right? I used to have a very clear, you know, construct in my head.
Sounds
about,
like excuse making to me.
Yeah, no, it is.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Carden,
you caught me.
I don't think
You caught
yeah,
me. But I used to really think, yeah, you're in the tent or you're out. And I'm not so sure anymore. I know a lot of people
Yeah.
that are in the tent that sort of live like they're out. You know?
Well, yeah,
and a lot of people
Jeff,
that seem like they're out of the tent, but boy, their lives sure seem like they're in. So it's a little blurry.
Yeah.
It's a little blurry for me, guys. I got to tell you.
Yeah, it matches the tension between two different things Christ taught, right?
Yes.
Where he talks about how, like, those who are not with me are against me, but at the same time, those who are not against me are with me, right? Like, he
Yeah.
has this tension, and I think that's resolved by how much you're personally living the gospel.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that you're pointing out that there are people who are within the church who don't actually live the gospel.
No.
And they absolutely need to repent and find ways to be better,
Yes.
and it will improve their
And we
lives.
need to bring back corporal punishment in the church.
Yeah. The
You know what I'm saying?
blood
Like,
atonement. Bring it on, right?
you just, well, maybe not blood. Like, I wouldn't draw blood, but like,
serious bruising.
no, seriously, like the stalks, if you missed home teaching,
Yeah, that
Just
would,
like,
that would cure
you know,
it,
laps.
sort of.
Laps. I think we should do laps. You break the word of wisdom, 5 laps.
Yeah.
You know what? I caught you with some coffee this week.
You know what? Hey, Brad.
7 laps.
Brad, I'm gonna
you know?
I'm gonna release Carden as bishop and call you.
Brilliant. And so the thing I wanted to finish saying is, I think there are people who leave the church, and this is a really fascinating thing I've watched, where they're like, well, I'm happy and things are fine. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, your happiness is pretty directly contingent to how much you've continued to live the gospel,
Yeah.
because you're continuing to live the principles that you were
Yes.
taught, right? And that's great. That's a good thing. Just
It is,
when you
know,
see the people.
It is a good
Oh, go ahead.
thing. No, it is a good thing. Keep going. I'm just saying, amen. It's a good thing when people, you know, choose to do that, because that suggests that there was something about it that was enduring beyond just, you know, their decision to be in or out of the church, right?
Mm-hmm. And so I actually think, Jeff, I'm with you that I don't think you're just sitting here saying all is well in Zion, even though people are falling away, right?
Yeah,
like
no.
it's not. This isn't a thing to think about to just pacify yourself that everything's fine. It is hey, take comfort in an eternal perspective that God still loves these
Yes,
children of His, no matter
absolutely.
where they are.
For sure. By the way, if somebody were to say to me, okay, Jeff, you did all this research, you wrote this book. By the way, I'm estimating 3,000 hours I put into this over the last 5 years. Like, what do you want, dude? Like, what are you after? And I'll just be straight with you. I'm not trying to get people who left the church to come back, right? But I hope that we can create a church community where more people will stay, right? For whatever reason they have. I'm with Carden on this. Yes, it's nice when they have a very traditional profiled belief system that matches up with what we like, right? But if they don't, I'm really happy if they stay anyway. And people stay in the church for lots of different reasons, right? Family reasons.
But like I even like bristle at that though, just because I'm like, I don't think that exists. Like it doesn't exist. There's
What doesn't exist?
like this kind of like level of not perfect, but like this level of high quality testimony that is like what? Nobody has like you can't know enough in this life to really get to whatever that there is.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks exists.
So you know what I hear you arguing for right there?
What?
Humility.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
so amen.
Have
like,
some freaking
yes,
humility,
yes.
dude.
So I really think, guys, when I was 40, I thought I knew everything, right? When I was 50, I realized, maybe I don't. And then when I turned 60, I went, man, there's a lot I don't know, right? And so the older I get, the more I know I don't know, right? And so I think humility is a massive, things like simple stuff, humility, gratitude, faith, are powerful things that we can
Like, you think you got a testimony? Bro,
yeah,
say that out loud with an earshot of God.
yeah, no,
And then I wouldn't stand anywhere near a bus stop.
yeah, no, that's right.
You know, just like
So Brad, that's what I hope for, right? And it's I'm not, by the way, I'm not here, I said this before, but I'll just say it one more time. Not trying to prove anything, not trying to win arguments. I'm sharing a hope and an aspiration that we can create a culture that will allow more people to stay. Because, guys, if I didn't believe that being part of the church community and being a member of the church was critical and beneficial, I wouldn't have wrote the book, right? It was like, hey, yeah, c'est la vie, right? But I really believe that. Now, I know that some people have to leave because it's just not working and they got to go, right? And I respect that choice. I'm not saying that they've done something wrong, but I'm just saying
I've had family members literally bullied out of the church, you know?
Yeah. Well,
like,
there's
let's not pretend that
there's
members are
there's
perfect.
some hard and unyielding soil right there,
What?
Brad. That's what I'm talking about.
bullied out of the church.
Yes. Have I never told you about this? These were Canadians. They're vicious. But it was rough. I've had family members who were mistreated because of, like, in a more strictly LDS community, like, than in Utah, right? And
Is this like Alberta?
there were people who, it was, and it was the kind of thing where the pride of members within the church really did legitimately drive some of my family members out.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe a way they could have toughed it out and stuck in, but they were like, I don't want to like reveal who it was based on the specifics of the details.
It's probably a good idea.
But they like attacked them over family members.
Yeah.
And like it was very, very bad. And it was like that's the kind of thing where I'm like, when I see people leave over that, I'm like, bro, that's 100% on the people
also,
who drove you
here's
out.
another very unpopular opinion. When I'm dictator, I meant prophet.
Yeah.
Is
Start with Bishop. Man.
Yeah,
Let's
start with Bishop.
Get that one done.
Theological dictatorette. Excommunications for gossip. We need them. I'm sorry. We need excommunications for gossip. And here's the reason why. Okay? Think how many people are driven and active and how much damage is done just from backstabbing gossip. That's kind of like, we will lambast a guy for maybe cheating on his wife or, I don't know, pornography, embezzlement. Here's a perfect example. Have you ever had identity theft, bro?
Never had that, thank goodness.
You never have.
No.
Brad, you ever had identity theft?
Someone stole my passport the night of my wedding.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
They almost got away with it, but Zion's bank stopped them. It was great.
Wow.
I've had legitimate identity theft where somebody was able to clone a SIM card and use my social security to sign up for like veteran affairs services, things that like were not me, and I was watching it actively happen on my screens. And the 3 days I had to deal with identity theft were more stressful than all of the Grand Theft Auto and the smash and grabs that have ever happened to me in Los Angeles. I will take the dude that broke my window and stole my laptop bag that only had scriptures in it, ironically, which is a really funny part. You know what I'm saying? But I would trade that any day, that blue collar crime, that prosecutable crime, that crime with fingerprints and physical evidence. I would take being a victim to that smash and grab any day over the white collar crime that really goes kind of unprosecuted in our society.
Was that because it just felt so invasive?
No, you're so fearful. It's like chasing this ghost. People are signing up for loans in your name and you don't know about it until the payments come due. There's no person you can talk to at the credit centers. You can freeze your credit, but then you have to go to your bank and say, has anybody taken out a loan in my name that day? And they'll tell you no, but then you come back the next day and somebody took out a $6,000 loan and the funds were drafted out of your account. Like you're chasing this ghost you can't see that's stealing money right out from underneath you that took months for you to earn. Your wife is crying because the stress is overwhelming. You're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make up for this $6,000 that just left my bank account now? Like, there's nobody you can prosecute. There's nobody you can fight. Everybody's IP addresses are bouncing off China. It is the worst, most stressful experience, and everybody that's gone through it knows exactly what I'm talking about. But you can't explain the stress until you've experienced it. And we do not prosecute white collar crime in this country. Some guy is guilty of stealing a $500 laptop. You know what I'm saying? And then a $600, I don't know, hubcap. Man, he'll go to prison for 3 years. Meanwhile, the dude that was busted embezzling $700,000 from the local union and stealing from all those laborers in his community, he'll get a slap on the wrist in community service. And it is so unfair. It's disproportional enforcement. It's why all the progressives get to make their bones in the minority communities because it disproportionately affects minorities. All of the above. The version of that spiritually is gossip. We do not prosecute the crimes of the gossiping members in our church and how it divides the body of Christ and the wedges that it puts in. I would literally say, like, you're off sacrament for the frickin' month because I heard the nasty things that you were saying about Brother Willards, and you, Sister So-and-so, I heard the nasty things you were saying in Relief Society. You're off sacrament for a month. You don't like it? Go inactive just like the guy that cheated on his wife because I view you as the same. You know, just, okay, maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic.
There's some tough love
but,
there.
you know, like,
Dang, Cardin, I was about to make you bishop again. But then,
do we not disproportionately enforce
let's
stigma?
Let's go ahead and release him and just put him in primary where he'll just give Skittles to those cute little kids.
Yeah. So we got 3 super chats, and we got to go. Then we got to get out here before I say crazy stuff. I can hear the feminists booting up their laptops now saying, he wants to excommunicate women for gossip. You know, here we go.
I would say, we don't have time. Go ahead and get to the super chats.
Gork says, I get the church hid this stuff for me from my mom, and I'm like, you were a BYU when Hugh Nibley and Truman Madsen were professors there. There's no chance you didn't hear about this stuff. That is awesome.
Nice.
And then Crazy LDS Mess Mom says, people hurting plus boomer BS culture plus no questions, judgment, self-righteousness equals hurt the already hurting. Uppercase no malice intent equals anger/pride both sides. Why you leaving /staying ? Equals you only know what you know. Heart IMO. Okay. I can totally see why this person's avatar is crazy LDS mess mom. Emphasis on the mess. That was a lot in that super chat.
There's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there.
Can we get that on the screen? I couldn't even.
I know. She squeezed every inch out of those 120 characters.
That's some highly efficient prose there.
You know, you win the best super chat of the past hour.
That's pretty solid. Just
by having gotten that all in there. But thank you very much for the insight, and we do agree with you in many regards. Crazy LDS mess mom.
Yeah. And she's right at the very end there. Like, only you really know why you left, right? And even then, I don't know if you completely know why you left, right? Like, I think we're very bad at being introspective. So I've been an author for a while now, writing fantasy books. And let me tell you, there's no way to make a character feel less real than by having them actually understand themselves,
Yeah.
right? And so I think our self-narrative, when we make choices and make decisions, is not always an accurate representation.
Brad, that's a good point because it's complicated stuff and people are trying to figure it out, right? So they have yearnings going on inside them, they have desires, they have an intellectual side, a spiritual side, all that stuff is kind of going in a giant salad bowl and they're trying to figure out what it all means, right? And and the people I talk to, as they go forward and look back, their perspective sometimes changes, just as ours does, right? I don't know about you guys. When I look back on my life, I say, I think I have a better understanding now of what that was all about and why I did what I did. So we shouldn't use that to say, well, their reasons aren't legit. We should use that to say, wow, it's incredibly complicated and personal, and we got to figure out how we can learn from what they can tell us.
Yeah, word. Last super chat before we jam right now is coming from Grork. And he says, 13 years, question mark. When does the anger go away? I'm only 5 years into this nonsense.
And so can I talk about that?
Yeah, hit it, bro.
So first of all, I feel for you, right? Because this is a really hard thing. In my family, it was probably, so it's been 13 years. I'd say we've been okay for the last 5 or 6. The first 3 were awful. And then we started to figure out how to talk to each other again. And the relationship, I hate to say repaired, but we kind of repaired the relationship. There was a lot of empathy, understanding, conversation. And now I'd tell you it's 13 years and we're in a great place, but it's been pretty good for 5 or 6 years. And by the way, you can do it faster than we did because we were not, we were clueless, right? We had lots of goofy ideas and bad, we weren't communicating. And so, if you're out there and this is you and you're feeling this, because other people have gone through it and you can learn from their mistakes, and you can do better, you can get through it faster.
Cool.
And I hope and pray for you for that because it's no fun.
All right, so last thoughts here, man. We got last thoughts. We got to go. Brad, you do your last thoughts first, and then Jeff will do his last thoughts. What are your last thoughts, Brad?
Okay, good. My final thoughts on this is, at least for me, I think the most important thing for us to all consider is when we're looking at these things, we should use them as tools to help us better understand how we might love our neighbor, but we need to make sure that we maintain a strong balance of loving God, that we continue relying on the Spirit to help us know how to love our neighbor best, because actually we will do the best love of our neighbor when we are guided by the Spirit in how to do so. And so that's my core takeaway from this entire discussion. I really appreciate you coming on, Jeff, and to talk with us and go through all of this and to have some back and forth on like, hey, I think we're wrong here. I think we're making some different assumptions in ways that helps us actually get to a closer understanding of one another, because that's hard to do.
It is.
But I think it's worthwhile. So thank you for coming on. And yeah, for anyone watching, keep asking Heavenly Father how you can apply the things you're learning as you are studying the scriptures and who you can serve. If you find yourself thinking about like, oh, what's going on with all of these other things? I'm not getting enough out of X, Y, or Z things at church. Just start thinking about who you can serve.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be one of the strongest antidotes. Just like you were saying, Jeff, when we focus in on the doctrine of Christ and the restored gospel, that helps us, that drives us in a way that like lifts our souls and lifts our burdens. That's how Christ lifts our burdens. So that's kind of the core of what I want to get across at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I like that, Brad. So I'll keep it short because I've talked a lot, but I have enjoyed my walk on the wild side with Brad and Carden. So it's it's been really fun. I came down here because I thought, you know what, I'm going to learn something, and I did. And so I to everybody out there in Ward Radio land, I love what you guys are doing here. This is a really important community. this, to me, this is part of the solution I'm advocating for, right? Is you're finding new and different ways to connect and make people feel like they're part of something that matters and that's giving them something they need. And so I had a lot of fun experiencing that with you guys tonight. Thanks for letting me come.
Based. Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you
Jeff.
to all of our sponsors and everybody that has helped us out with all this equipment from the Amazon wish list. Thank you again to M. Smith for the purchasing on that Amazon wish list. Thank you very much to everybody who's gotten some cool merch this week, specifically the War in Heaven and Ward Radio hats and shirts. Also, big shout out to Jeff. Where can people find your book and you if they're trying to follow you?
Yeah, they can find the book on Amazon. Just go search Torn by Jeff Strong. It'll pop right up, #1 bestseller. And then the website's kind of cool, tornbyjeffstrong.com. And here's why it's cool. You can read the intro and the first 2 chapters, and you can see all the disaffiliation data for free now. You don't have to buy the book. I did that on purpose.
Okay, cool. Also, big shout out to all of our sponsors, specifically Scripture Notes. You guys can check out Scripture Notes at scripturenotes.com. Also, another big fat shout out to our sponsors, Angel Studios. You can find them at angel.com. I'm surprised they got that URL. That's actually pretty dang cool.
That is cool.
We also got an interview coming out with T.C. Christensen that we just did regarding his film. Brad, what was the film T.C. Christensen made again? What was it called? I got to pull it up here. It was his son.
Yeah, it was his son. He was a producer for it. It was called. It was a good title too.
Oh,
Why
this
am I
is
blanking?
so
Are you
embarrassing.
talking lately?
Yes.
Yeah,
what was
it's
it? We
very
just
recent.
did it. This is so lame. It was the
I
wrestler.
know. We're the worst.
It's his first name, Christensen. This is embarrassing. We just did the whole friggin'. I remember the guy's name. It was Carr. Wrestler
Yeah.
Christian. It was KJAR. I'm gonna find this one. I'm gonna put. Here it is. Stand out. Oh,
Stand Out.
geez.
That's the one.
That was
Stand
so
Out,
pathetic. I couldn't freaking
Hey, don't
find
worry.
that.
We both failed, Carden. We both failed.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to look up the I'm going to be looking up, okay, so Standout movie poster. Here we go. Okay. Shout
And what
out
was
to
the-
these cats. What
Yeah. What was the subtitle? The name of the guy?
So I'm pulling it up right now. It's called Standout, and here's the picture. Here we go. So thank you to our sponsors, Angel Studios, specifically their recent film, Stand Out, the Ben Carr story. There's the movie poster that you see right there. Angel Studios Guild has been super generous with us, giving us all kinds of cool free tickets and giveaway shirts. We still have the free Angel shirt coupon code. If you guys use the coupon code, free Angel shirt, and get anything in the Ward Radio merch store, specifically one of our short shirts or one of the War in Heaven veteran hats, then just tell us your size in the notes. You have to tell us your size. If you don't tell us your size, you're not going to get the shirt, or we just have to guess, okay? So give us your size in the notes on the order, but if you use all uppercase free Angel shirt, you're going to get a free Angel Studios shirt, okay, with your order. So make sure you check that out. And we got the interview coming up with T.C. Christensen and his son. This was the movie Stand Out, the Ben Carr story. Who overcome? Yeah, Brad?
I just want to throw out there. Go ahead and finish the description.
Well, actually, you describe it. You're better at it than I am.
Okay, so in Stand Out, the Ben Carr story, what was it?
I think it was pronounced Carr, yeah.
Yeah, it's about a guy who is, he has Cruzon syndrome, a rare craniofacial disorder, and from birth, doctors warned that his life would be dominated by limitations, by bullying and harsh scrutiny. But despite that prognosis, Ben yearned for an ordinary life free from judgment and harassment, but he learned that if he couldn't be ordinary, then he would just have to be extraordinary. And
man.
it's an amazing story.
It's awesome.
And guys, something special to me, there was a little guy in my ward who was in music class with my kids who also had Cruzon syndrome. And he plays the young Ben in this story.
Oh, wow.
And so,
Oh, wait, that kid's real? It's not AI?
yeah, man, that
Wait,
is
wait, this Colton Fielding kid?
Yeah. He was in my ward, and
Oh, cool. They actually
he's
got
such a wonderful little guy.
awesome.
And yeah, so I everyone should watch it. It's going to be an amazing story.
Oh, okay, cool. Because the thing is, they always, whenever they gloss over, it's so good to know they're using real actors. Because whenever they gloss over all of these like younger actor thingies, they always try and youngify through AI people's faces. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it like never works. It's like homeboy Robert De Niro in The Irishman. They're like,
Yeah.
look at this amazing technology. They youngified him. It's like, he looks like a video game. Like, what are you talking about? You know? So, yeah, we still got to watch that. And I'm getting some preview screeners from Angel. I'm going to try and actually see if I can't get some preview screeners for our audience. They've always been really generous with those. So I'm going to see if I can't get some of those. Because I have yet to see said young actor. I haven't seen the movie yet. I got to go watch it myself, you know? So, anyway, thank you very much, Angel Studios. And Go and Do Travel. Where are they? There they are. Woo! There we go. Thank you, Go and Do Travel, specifically the LDS Comedy Cruise, which we will be collaborating with them on pretty soon, with Brad Whitbeck being a stand-up comedian. So that's going to be real fun. So anyway, guys, this has been totally awesome. Jeff, you're a total stud. We can't wait to have you back on the show. And for the rest of y'all, it's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. For this and more, please check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna